Right in the middle of the tournament.
Just as that ball was about to hit the rim. Thank you. I forgot what I was going to say. This is a Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. It is February 18th, 2026. We are going to, first I want to introduce Kristen Bishop, our analyst. Thank you. And Ashley, our committee clerk. Thank you, Ashley. And Representative Rollins, do you want to start the introductions?
Good morning. I'm Representative Dave Rollins from House District 59, which is right here in Augusta, Maine, on this side of the river. You're in my district.
I'm Senator Penny Beebe Center, and I represent all of Knox County except for Idaho and the town of Washington.
Joseph Martin, District 19, Franklin and Oxford counties, central all the way up to the Canadian border.
Good morning. My name is Sue Salisbury and I represent House District 128, which is part of Westbrook.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Randall Greenwood. I proudly represent my friends and neighbors in the towns of Litchfield, Monmouth, and my hometown of Wales in both Androscoggin and Kennebec counties.
Good morning. I'm Joseph Underwood from District 5, which is Presque Isle and it's Central Ulster County. And good morning.
Good morning. I'm Will Toole. I represent House District 10, Central Washington County, Central and Coastal Washington County, and it's good to be with everyone today.
Thank you. And my name is Joseph Baldacci. I represent District 9, which is the city of Bangor and the town of Herman. So our first item on today's agenda for public hearings is LD 695, an act regarding the laws of the state of Maine, to be presented by Senator Peirce of Cumberland.
Everywhere's a little different. Every room's a little different, you know, it's kind of funny. So, good morning, Chair Baldacci, Chair Salisbury, and the honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. My name is Teresa Peirce. I proudly serve, I proudly represent Senate District 25, which includes Falmouth, Cumberland, North Yarmouth, Gray, the majority of Yarmouth, and Long Island. In addition, I am honored to serve as the Senate Majority Leader. Thank you for the opportunity to present LD 695, an act regarding the laws of the state of Maine. My testimony and the article attached is focused on the sponsors amendment. I would ask for your consideration to change the title to an act to improve safety in public service. Since 2023, the number of threats against Maine lawmakers, Republican, Democrat, and independents nearly tripled, according to Maine State Police. This increase has left lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, their families and loved ones feeling uneasy and making some reconsidering maybe their decisions to serve. It is incumbent upon us as lawmakers and community leaders, regardless of party or creed, to reject political violence, recommit to respectful debate, uphold American values, and recognize one another as fellow citizens. LD 695 proposes a meaningful effort toward this goal by creating a fund that legislators can apply for to install home security systems. As drafted, LD 695 would charge the Office of the Executive Director of the Legislature to administer the program in accordance with policies and procedures established by Legislative Council and in the manner determined by the Executive Director. The Legislative Council would then select through a competitive bidding process licensed and qualified security professionals to provide home security systems in accordance with the policy and procedures established by Legislative Council. The Legislative Residential Security Fund account administered by Legislative Council would be used for home security systems. When a member of the legislature service is concluded, the Legislative Council may not expend funds from this fund for service fees associated with monitoring or maintaining that former legislator's home security system. I appreciate the opportunity to present this bill and bring member security to the forefront. While this is just this one measure may not solve the issue of political violence my hope is that will give meaningful peace of mind to those serving in their communities. I urge you to support the bill and would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Senator Pearce. Any questions? Representative Tool?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill forward. I know we all are very concerned about political violence and such, and it's a very serious time with what's going on in Minnesota, what went on in Minnesota and in Utah and other places. My question, though, is we have a couple of bills and appropriations to expand state police coverage in rural areas. Do you see this bill as a companion to those, in that if we don't have the coverage, who's going to answer the call? We're a security system to go off? Or do you see this as competing? Or do you see this as part of a broader public safety question or situation?
Thank you for the question, Representative. I don't see this as a competing measure. I think we have to do a number of different things to add a level of security and a level of responsiveness to things that do happen. As we all are, I'm sure, know our local law enforcement people that work in our communities. We're friendly with them. They're very responsive when I've ever needed something. So I think looking at those bills that maybe are appropriations, I'm not familiar with the exact LDs, might be a good companion piece to this. So,
And those bills are LD 461, sponsored by Senator Moore, which is 4 state troopers for Washington County, and Representative Deschamps has a similar measure for several other rural counties. And I also know there are several other security type bills flowing through, and would just ask that for the work session, if you could maybe weigh in on all of them combined. Because there are several different moving pieces here.
correct. Yeah, I'm happy to take a look at those. I will leave it to the discretion of the committees that did the work on those bills to, understand their intricacies. And obviously, if they're on the appropriations table now, they're in consideration at the moment. I think we have to do dual things right here. I think that this is one avenue, which a number of other states are doing, that are similar to this. But of course, we always want to make sure we have the law enforcement necessary as well. So,
Thank you. Senator Martin?
Hi, Senator. Good morning.
good morning.
How many legislators, senators and representatives have been assaulted in the last 2 years at their homes? Or scared, I guess, but assaulted or harassed?
Well, I think those are wildly different dynamics, right? So
Okay,
people who
assaulted.
are assaulted, I don't know that I have any direct knowledge of that, but I might not know that personally. So I wouldn't want to feign an answer on that without knowing the statistics on it. I do know that there have been a number, I included, have had death threats, other things that come via mail or other avenues to me over my course of time here. That's escalated in the last 3 years. I'll be honest. I've been around 12 years now. So, and then I think the peace of mind issue is really, I'm happy to take that and absorb that as an elected official and understand the avenues that I can go through. It's a little different for maybe my family members or my kids. And I think sometimes with the home security measures, it's an added level of intervening at the home level that gives a sense more of security for that, and definitely works. I mean, I have a neighbor who isn't elected, but she has one of those doorbells that shows the picture, and she had a person try to invade her home, and they were able to capture it, and the police were called immediately. So there's a level of comfort and security that I think this avenue could help solve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Representative Salisbury?
Thank you. And I so appreciate this bill. I had to install cameras in my home. And again, like you just mentioned, it was more because of my 87-year-old mom, but I certainly, because of threats that I received in concerning emails. And I think, wouldn't you agree that it's a preventative measure? We don't want to wait until someone's been hurt in their home before we do more, just like we're doing at the Cross Building?
Yeah, absolutely. I thank you for the question. And I do think if we can take some measures that could be preventative, I think we should look into doing that. We're a citizens legislature here. We're not full-time. We don't have, the same resources that maybe some other legislatures have. And so absolutely, this is a yes and kind of thing.
Okay. So I was just going to ask if you or some people associated with the bill could provide us maybe for the work session, just the type of, like a listing of the type of threats. I know that the number of threats has tripled since 2023.
Mhm.
It would be helpful just to have, without identifying information, it'd be helpful to have a, listing of what kinds of threats those were, so we have a sense of what we're doing. I too agree with Representative Salisbury. Thank you for this bill. In 2023, a number of us spoke out against a Nazi that was coming up to Springfield, Maine, and on his Twitter page, he posted an assault rifle, and it's still there, that Joe Baldacci is not going to stop me. And the Capitol Police did inform me, thankfully. And but those type of things, efforts to intimidate legislators from talking about issues that their constituents want them to advocate. So it's not just a matter of personal safety, it's a matter of being able to be a representative democracy in a peaceful and constructive manner. And that's how I see this bill.
Well, I'll definitely look for the information from 2023 and I would agree
Yeah.
if that was a question. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Representative Greenwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for being here today.
Nice to see you.
In talking about this bill over the weekend with some friends, one of my neighbors asked, well, why should the taxpayers have to pay for something that, not everybody might feel threatened, but wouldn't it be a personal responsibility issue? Like, for example, I've taken the position where I've installed ring cams, so I have the ability to record and so on, but I didn't ask the taxpayers to pay for it. What would your response be to that?
Absolutely. Certainly a lot of people have done this on their own. I would say that, we are a citizens legislature. We're modestly reimbursed for the work that we do here. And in before times, that was you're driving here, staying over if you, live far over 50 miles away or whatever. And unfortunately, we've moved into another moment, right, where part of serving could be part of this intimidation, threat, harassment. And so I think that we want to make an environment where people are willing to serve and willing to be elected. And if this makes a small movement toward making people feel more comfortable and able to do that, I think that it's incumbent upon us to look at that and then analyze that in a meaningful way. I also feel that, well, I'll just leave it at that. I won't go any further.
Representative Underwood, you had a question?
Good morning. My basic question, this is a concept draft. Could we see the bill? Have you got an amendment that's?
And I want to thank your analyst who did a great job working with me and others to draft the bill. And I believe it was emailed out to the interested parties group ahead with the rules that concept drafts have to have. So there it is in shiny yellow.
What would you consider a credible trigger for this bill, for example?
I think it's a different level of comfort for every individual elected. But, people being harassed, people showing up in your community, people sending you letters, voicemails. I mean, there's a variety of ways that people outside of the elected groups here choose to interact with us. And some people take that across the line, which can make people worried, uncomfortable. It can make particularly family members, particularly children, worried or uncomfortable. When I served on my town council, we had a person in our community who would follow me home at night from those meetings because he didn't like what I was doing with the TIF on Route 1. And I had small children and I didn't have a ring cam. I printed out a picture of the gentleman and I said, should he come to our door, don't open the door. That, we're trying to provide opportunity for people to feel safer, to have their families be reactive to this in a way that's not denying anyone their right to be in touch with us, but also just give a level of security or a level of comfort to those individual legislatures, their family, and their neighbors. I mean, these can happen in a neighborhood too. So.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Representative Rollins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I grew up in a bygone era, as many of us in this room did. Can't imagine what's going on. Car doors are left open, homes are left open. Nobody worried about their neighbors. It was totally free range. And a lot of us, that's our common experience. But that's gone. And now there's a blind threat everywhere you go. You just never know. So my question back from the good representative from Sabatis is, he asked, why are the taxpayers responsible? I'm going to ask, why aren't they? They're responsible for our safety in every other way. Why wouldn't they be as that threat extends beyond the facility here? Last year I introduced a bill, believe it or not, you're not free to carry guns in the state buildings, but you can in municipal buildings. And it didn't pass. And I was stunned. So I just write that off, that we don't feel the real threat because we grew up where we can't imagine it. So I think it's a new day to ask that question. Why aren't they? And I'd like to hear your comments on that.
Well, certainly I couldn't agree more. We all grew up in a little different era where we did leave our doors unlocked and our cars unlocked, and we are living in a different moment in time. I clearly, by bringing forward the bill, think it's a responsibility of the legislature to address this issue in some manner, and that does involve some fiscal note to take care of that. I also think that if we were out in the community asking people what they thought about this, which I've done just, anecdotally, they want people who they elect to feel safe to do the work of their municipality, their town, their school board, their legislature at the national level. And if there's some modest way we could help with that, it won't solve every problem, but it certainly is an opportunity to help solve part of the problem.
Okay, yes, Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this very important bill forward.
Good morning.
I mean, this committee voted to have the security in the cross building, and it's very real. It's you don't feel comfortable out there, and if we want people to, be legislators and get. The threat out there is so strong that I know people who won't run for that very reason. And I have to say that we have our legislative plates. I kept them on my car for, 6 years now? And so that if I'm in the grocery store, somebody knows where I am, they could find me. It's totally an accessibility thing where I need to be face front with constituents. I took them off because I don't feel safe. And, so do you think that this would calm some of those fears?
I think it could help. I think this is all very individual, what people choose to do, whether it's with your plate or if you wanted to do some security in your home or how you're going to address it. So I do think that this is a meaningful way to address some of the issues associated with what's happening locally, statewide, nationally. I love serving here. I think we all are in these committee rooms serving with people on both sides of the aisle. This is not a partisan issue at all. I would call any one of you if my car broke down in your area, your neck of the woods. I'd, look you up and say, come help me and come find me. I know you would do that. So I feel like there's a family aspect to what we do up here, but there's also that outside world that's encroaching in. And that makes it difficult. And I think we want to give people that peace of mind. There are great people out there who I want to have serve on both sides of the aisle. And I'm worried that people will really shy away from, and this includes like our town people, right? And our school boards. And I want to make sure that we're doing things that encourage that. So, and this is actually just for legislators, not for local people.
Right,
So,
I understand that. Thank you.
yeah.
Other questions or comments? Yes, Representative Rollins.
Is there a fiscal note attached to this?
They'll run the fiscal note on it. Roughly $5,000 covers, a system. They'll do an RFP. So I think you'll get back a fiscal note when you review language on it based on that. Again, not everyone would take us up on it. So it would be a fund that would be accessed into. If for some reason that fund were used up in its entirety, they'd have to come back to refill it, so to speak. If not, it would sit in there and be administered during that time.
Thanks.
Representative Copeland.
Oops.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That just made me think about, people who may have already bought Ring cameras and so forth, but wouldn't having this system do more than a Ring camera?
It could be whatever you choose. Like they'll do an RFP on a couple different security systems because not every security system works all over different parts of the state. So there might be different options available. And again, it would be then very personal to what you wanted to do, what you felt you needed to do at your home around this issue. So some people have cameras everywhere and, some people don't have anything. And so I think it's a matter of what you feel comfortable with, what your family would want to feel comfortable with. So.
And grandchildren.
And grandchildren or
Thank you.
mothers or whomever is hanging out with you in your world. So,
Thank you.
yes.
Yeah, Representative Tool.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize for a second question, but it's that line of questioning brought something to light, and that is, have you spoken with law enforcement around the state to see what their capacity is to respond to a case or an incident or something happening? Is I do think going back to that point that if we don't have the people to respond for 45 minutes or an hour in some parts of the state, the system really isn't a peace of mind. So I think that needs to be part of it.
Well, I haven't spoken directly with law enforcement other than in my own communities where if you do have some sort of home security system and it goes off, they do respond. I think this can also be a deterrent to some people if they see that is happening. If they see your home has something, it tends to, just like it would with people who might want to rob you or something, it can be a little deterrent to say, hey, I'm not going to go there. They've got something that's focused and alarming and might go to the police, or I could have a picture of myself taken. So I think there's a little bit of a deterrent there. So I don't disagree. There are areas of our state that need more coverage with law enforcement. I've, chaired the appropriations committee where this is a perennial issue that we talk about a lot, how to do that, how to do it best, how to support the people in law enforcement. So I'm certainly willing to talk about that. This bill doesn't address that. This is a companion piece to something along those lines.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. I'll see you at your work session.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that wishes to speak in favor of the bill? Oh, I see, Madam President.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Senator Baldacci, Representative Salisbury, and esteemed members of the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. My name is Maddie Daughtry, and I serve as the president of the Maine Senate. And I proudly represent Senate District 23, which includes Brunswick, Pownell, Freeport, Harpswell, Shebig Island, and part of Yarmouth. And I'm pleased to testify in support of LD 695 as amended by the sponsor's amendment, an act regarding the laws of the state of Maine. And I want to thank Senator Peirce for bringing forth this bill. The bill in front of you as drafted establishes a legislative residential security program to mitigate the increased risk to the physical security of legislators in their residences. This bill creates a non-lapsing legislative residential security fund administered by the Legislative Council and authorizes the installation, monitoring, and maintenance of home security systems for current members subject to available funds and policies and guidelines adopted by the bipartisan council. And I want to speak candidly about why this matters. In our state, legislators are accessible by design. Maine has always had a citizen legislature, and I will always fight heartily to maintain that we have a citizens legislature. We live in our communities, we shop at the same grocery stores as our constituents, we answer our doors when folks knock, so we go to school concerts, town meetings, wood banks, bean suppers, and ball games. The accessibility is something I deeply value about serving in this great state, and I think it makes all of you around this horseshoe better legislators. And I also recognize, while it's one of the greatest strengths of our government, the world has changed. The risks associated with public service have evolved significantly in recent years. Personal information is easier than ever to find than before, and doxing rates for elected officials are an all-time high in our state. While most disagreements remain respectful, it only takes a split second for things to take a dangerous turn. According to reporting from Maine Capitol Police, as you've heard, threats against Maine lawmakers have more than doubled since 2023, increasing from just over 20 reported threats that year to more than 50 in 2024 and continuing to rise. These threats have targeted legislators across the political spectrum, regardless of party affiliation or political stance. And the Maine State House has had to be evacuated in the past due to bomb threats that mention sitting lawmakers and legislative spaces and committees. These patterns of intimidation aren't limited to the halls of the Capitol itself. Swatting, which is the false reporting of emergencies meant to provoke an armed police response, has occurred against Maine officials' homes as well. Unfortunately, demonstrating that threats can follow elected officials to the places where they live and raise their families. Maine is not alone. In other parts of the country, we've seen how quickly rhetoric and targeted harassment can escalate. Last year, a man posing as a law enforcement officer went to the homes of Minnesota legislators in the early morning hours. And in what authorities described as a coordinated, politically motivated attack, he shot and killed former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, as well as targeting and wounding a state senator and his wife. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit choked up because I knew them. And I want to add that they were not, this is the worst of the worst. One of the things that I get to be part of as a Senate president is a bipartisan forum of other Senate presidents. And we have discussed this together. And the concern for the safety of our caucuses is not a Democratic or a Republican concern. It's something I heard from each and every state when we met in January. This bill is not about perks or prestige. It's not about making sure that any of us goes home. It's about making sure that when any of us goes home at the end of the day, our families feel safe in their own space. As we all know too well, being a public servant means our families take a specific toll. When we're away for long hours, when they try to call us and the phone is busy, we owe it to our families to make sure that their own space is safe as well. A basic professionally installed and monitored home security system is a practical preventative measure. It doesn't make us less accessible. It doesn't shield us from accountability. It simply acknowledges that serving in public office today comes with a new reality. It reflects a simple principle. It is far better to take reasonable, responsible precautions now than to wish we had after something has happened. I want to remind us all that we have a constituent services portion that we all get, recognizing that part of our job as public servants is to communicate with the public. I would argue that what this bill provides is recognizing that part of that job is keeping us safe. If our job puts us in the line of harm, shouldn't it enable us to be able to protect the very ones we love? If we want people from all backgrounds, young parents, working professionals, retirees, first-time candidates, to continue stepping forward to serve, we have to recognize the real-world pressures they face. Providing reasonable security options is a prudent and proportional response. No one should have to weigh their family safety against a desire to serve their community and their state. Protecting legislators' homes is ultimately about protecting Maine's citizen legislature. It ensures that service remains possible for people from all walks of life and not just those who can afford to manage heightened security concerns of their own. I do want to take a quick moment and address, there was a question about some of the threats. Obviously, I can't share everyone's specific stories, but some of the ones that I have been privy to as a member of leadership. We've had members of this legislature who have been swatted, have had to have their family members evacuated due to a bomb threat. We've had consistent death threats. In fact, this is something I've been through. We've had consistent rape threats against bipartisan female members of this legislature. We've had descriptions threatening people's children, describing where they go to school. We have members of this legislature who are currently dealing with active stalkers. This is something that, as the presiding officer of this building, makes me extra nervous that someone is being stalked for simply serving in this legislature. In fact, some of the swatting threats that were received, including by the Speaker of the House, included threats listing the Google Map location of their personal home. We've had consistent people looking through social media due to the tenor and language, including threats to dismember legislators by throwing them in wood chippers. And in fact, I'll give an example which turned out to be harmless, but still made my family very, very nervous. I had someone going through my mail, looking through my personal property, trying to find something to be able to put in a threat in the mail. I will add that I have met with my incredible local police chief in Brunswick. Oh, that was very odd. I have met with my local police chief and I've asked specifically, how do I keep everyone safe? I take it very seriously when we all walk into this building, when members of the public walk in this building. This is the people's house. They need to be kept safe. You've seen increases to security, which this committee has done. We need to make sure that people continue to want to sit in the seats around this horseshoe. If they're scared to run because of fears of safety for themselves and their families, then we're failing at the very beauty of this incredible institution that we're blessed to be a part of. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I respectfully urge the committee to dig in and make sure that we can use the same commitment that we have to keep people safe here and safe at home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Representative Tool?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senate
Morning.
President, for your moving testimony. I wouldn't want to ever question whether somebody had been threatened or the depth of it. And I'm sure there are people out there who've never reported threats.
Exactly.
But with that, my question that I asked Senator Purse about the law enforcement needs.
Yeah.
I think we can't overlook that and would ask you if you're committed to moving initiatives that boost law enforcement in areas where this bill might not be enough forward.
I'm definitely interested in matters on that. I would have to dig more into the specific areas of legislation, but I would say I share your concerns. My grandfather's from Jonesport, Maine. Not an exact description, but I got very sick once when I was out in Jonesport when I was young. And they told me the response time to if I was going to have to get life flighted out of there was very dangerous. So I agree. And I would also state that we're a rural state with, law enforcement who's having a lot of trouble with recruitment, even in my own district in Southern Maine, where we're blessed to have rapid response times. I've talked to my police chief about how do we keep, the bench line and the pipeline of folks invested and interested in pursuing law enforcement. And we need to keep our, finger on the pulse of not only making sure that our coverage is increased in those rural areas, but that as we have aging forces throughout our state, that there are people going through our academy and ready to step up and pursue, a life in law enforcement. So I agree we need to do a lot more. But I will say in those areas where you have those slow response times, I think it's even more important to have these security systems because God forbid, if anything goes wrong, hopefully we have footage. I mean, look what's going on with Savannah Guthrie's mother. One of the biggest breaks in that case is that they were able to have this camera footage. So we need to pursue both at the same time.
Other questions?
I have
Yeah, Senator Martin?
I wasn't going to, but I'm gonna. Would you be in favor of legislators, carrying in the State House for that protection?
I would want to talk to Capitol Police about that. I am a firearm owner myself, and I think we need to make sure we're listening to law enforcement and best practices. So if they think that is something that is a best practice, I'd want to pursue it, but I would want to make sure we're going through them because there are some concerns. I've talked to, in fact, my own police chief and other best practices we've met with when we're actually talking to the Department of Health and Human Services on looking through threatscapes for legislatures. One of the concerns was how many, where is the line? Like if you have concealed carry, is it for all members of the public? Is it just for the legislature? So, when we're looking at how we screen folks, how we've hardened down, that's based on letting law enforcement dictate what the best practice is. And I think on those things, we should follow their lead.
Okay, well, my question was just legislators,
Yeah.
not everybody.
True. I always think about the giant building.
Thank you.
For better or for worse, it keeps me up all night thinking about, not just us, journalists, members of the public, everyone who's interacting in one space. So,
Madam President, thank you for your excellent testimony. It was very, oh, I'm sorry. Representative, go ahead. Sorry.
Just real quick question. Would you be in favor of strengthening laws to protect our law enforcement? Because they're getting stuff thrown at them while they're trying to do their jobs. And our federal law enforcement as well. We get threats. I've gotten them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it is a personal responsibility for us to protect our own. We shouldn't have other people paying for our protection because, they can't pay for protection for themselves. Why should they be doing it for us? My question is, so there is no fiscal note to this, and my concern, I guess my biggest concern is if this becomes a mandatory thing,
Mhm.
all of a sudden these companies are now going to charge what they want.
Mhm.
And then these fiscal notes will keep on jumping and jumping and jumping.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. It happened with insurance rates and everything. So it's not uncommon for that to happen.
Mhm.
What's your take on that?
So one of the different measures for checks and balances is ensuring that it goes to the Legislative Council, which regardless of who's in the majority or in the minority, has the 10 officials that are leading all 4 caucuses. And I, take the fiduciary duty that those members on that council have very, very seriously. Not only do we sign up on matters of security, your constituent allowance, like what your per diem is, you need to have someone with eyes. So it isn't just a line item that keeps going up and up and up. Like think about not just health insurance. I know we all look at our different budgets, but I look at the, technology budget, the cost of Microsoft going up and up and up. I also think it's important for it to have that RFP process so that we are finding the best value, but also best system for legislators. And also, I think this is something we're not going to know until we try it. And from the language that I reviewed from the senator, it has really good guardrails of making sure that there's a limit on the cost. There is a RFP process to look for the best portion. But I would also add, if you can think of any other financial or accountability guardrails, I always think they're a good thing to build into any bill, whether it's this or whether it's, health insurance. So.
Yes, Representative Salisbury.
I just want to confirm regarding the fiscal note that currently the way it's written, that there is a request to set up a $450,000
Yes.
fund. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Representative Greenwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam President, for being
Of
here.
course. Thank you.
The senator from Oxford posed the question that just got me thinking.
Yeah.
Actually, as an elected official, the least place I feel safe is when I'm on the Capitol grounds and in the Capitol building, because I'm prohibited from carrying,
Mhm.
okay, to defend myself. I would feel more comfortable having the ability to protect myself
Mm.
and my fellow legislators on Capitol grounds if I was allowed to carry,
Mhm.
as I am allowed to carry in my home and private residence. Would you consider, for those members that choose not to have monitored security systems,
Mhm.
be able to defend themselves in other ways? Could they use this fund to say
Mhm.
purchase a firearm to defend themselves, or take a firearm safety course
Mhm.
that would allow them to properly carry and defend themselves? Again, for legislators only.
So I'm always in favor of those safety courses and would recommend that everyone have one. I will add that, I'm not the sponsor of the bill, but the way I've read this is specifically about those security systems. So you're able to be armed in your own home, but let's say something happens and you're hopefully able to protect yourself and your family and your house. But in the aftermath of all of that, that security system is going to be even more important to make sure that you have backup. So I think they're two separate items. One is making sure that, you feel safe and you're protected. And I think that's another conversation. Like I said to the good senator, I think it is a conversation that we've had before and needs to be grounded in best practices by law enforcement. But that aside, I do think having, a home monitoring system is the best practice, regardless of whether someone is able to be armed or not. So, because I've spent a lot of time, I have family members who have worked in law enforcement. I am lucky to have an incredible law enforcement community in my district. And for the folks who, are carrying at home, they always say the best practice is to also have a video and security system, just so you can make sure that you're crossing your T's, dotting your I's, and going from there. So.
Representative.
Just what Representative Salisbury said, yeah, it's a fiscal note of 450,000 based on our total legislator. It's about 2,200 per legislator. And of course, there's end user agreements at the end of that as well. So that is a bill that will just completely and keep on climbing. I just like your opinion about that. What, why any one of us should get an extra $2,200 and some change to protect ourselves.
Because this job specifically puts you at risk, just like the law enforcement you mentioned. We should be doing more to protect them. I have talked to a member who has left the force because of the threats that they were receiving, but their job put them directly in the line of these threats. And just as we should be protecting law enforcement, a legislator, if their life is being put at risk because of serving, that is a change in sort of, if your job puts you at risk, your job should be able to help make sure that you're being protected. I will add on the subscription services, I have the exact same concern. I will say that at my own business, we have a non-subscription based service that you're paying for the hardware and you actually have it monitored not in the cloud, but in a unit in the house so that you're not consistently paying for improvements, which I hope is something that would be pursued through an RFP. So we're not stuck with an ongoing
Oh, I'm
bill.
just gonna digress on that. So with the
Yeah.
subscription service, because I own a business as well, and
Yeah.
they just add up, and then are we gonna be having the taxpayers for the state of Maine responsible for recovering those each year as they go up? I don't think it's appropriate.
I would say that I hope we look at one of the systems like I have that does not have the subscriptions that go on and on because it's a fiscally prudent, finding the best deal that also has the best service. That also, I think another thing that's really important that people don't think about is when it's just in the cloud. When law enforcement needs to access that video, sometimes there can be a delay for law enforcement getting access to that footage, which is actually why I changed my system to one that is locally hosted. So I am able to pull that footage immediately for law enforcement. So not only is it more of a fiscally sound method for the taxpayers and for any purchaser who's out there looking at a security system, it also is a better example for law enforcement. But I will say again that I fully believe that if your job is putting you in danger, we need to be able to address this. We have a constituent service because we recognize that you need a phone to be able to talk to your constituents or a budget to be able to mail people. If you are, and this is something I've talked to folks on both sides of the aisle who have been thinking of running for office, who are choosing to not run for office because they've seen the level of vitriol and threats. And that breaks my heart. There's a person that I've sort of mentored. We don't agree politically. We're on different sides of the aisle, but they'd be a freaking phenomenal legislator. They're young. We need more voices like that. And they're not thinking of running because of everything. So.
Okay, Senator Martin.
One more time. It was mentioned that there might be a $5,000 cap on this.
Yep.
Okay, will the legislature get a W-9 and have to pay taxes on it? Or is it going to belong to the state? And when the legislature
For
legislature
the
is done,
software?
yeah.
Okay.
Is the state going to take that back so that the legislature doesn't have to pay taxes on it?
That was one of the questions that we had discussed, and I would defer to the sponsor on this. It gets into, if you think back to your tax packet that we get about how the constituent services is handled, I do believe it'd be similar to that. Or another example that I was looking into is if you buy equipment on your campaign, there's a portion of the ethics law that talks about how it has to be handled. So one of the ways that that's handled in campaigns is you would have to buy that outright at the end of your legislative service or return the equipment to the legislature was one of the ways I was thinking about it. But again, I do defer to the sponsor on this as well as to you as the committee for your deliberations on how best to handle that.
Okay, well, that can go into the work session. I just figured I'd put it out there.
Yeah, it's a good consideration of like how you handle it of, say someone you're termed out, how do we handle that? And I think it makes sense to have that consideration kind of like we do on campaigns for equipment. So.
Thank you.
Okay, just to put in, to build on Representative Toole's plugging of other bills, let me just put in a bipartisan
Yeah.
plug because we also have a county jail funding issue, that's public safety, as well as the rural patrol issue with the state police. I think I also support both of those initiatives. So I would just put a plug in that those are additional public safety issues. Maybe we can do them all together in some sort of supplemental budget, but I think that that was a
Once
little
again, say that the
bipartisan
committee
plug.
that has the purse strings is in the other building.
Right, I
You're-
agree, but I just want
Urge
to
you
put that
all to
out
go
there.
publicly comment over there. While we're on
Thank
it, I do want to throw out a couple of resources for you all while you're doing your deliberations. The National Conference of State Legislatures is digging into this issue very seriously and has been convening best practices and stakeholder groups. So would really recommend reaching out to them. In fact, I do think they have the National Legislative Security and Safety Advisory Council that is made up of if they testify, okay. I'll keep my mouth shut. I am
They are next to testify.
I am foreshadowing who's going to come behind me. And then also, there are great resources through not only the state police, but also the National Federations of Law Enforcement, as well as the Threatscapes that DHS has done for us as well, which Suzanne Gresser might be able to go in more depth about as well.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room wish to speak in favor? Okay. We have somebody on Zoom. Can you bring them in? Emily Ronco? Hi, Ms. Ronco.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. You are speaking in favor of this legislation. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. I do just want to quickly clarify that I am not speaking for or against this piece of legislation, but am coming to offer a national landscape perspective on other states' approaches to legislator security at this time. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm actually especially honored to be joining you as my family is from Maine and I have many cherished memories of time in Piscataquis and Somerset counties. So thank you for having me. As you mentioned, my name is Emily Ronco and I work for the National Conference of State Legislatures. My research portfolio includes legislative security, and staff in Senator Peirce's office asked me to speak today about national trends around legislator safety. As you know, this topic is rapidly evolving, especially after the violence and killings in Minnesota last June. A 2023 survey and study from the Brennan Center for Justice reports that 40% of all state legislators across the country have received threats or attacks between 2020 and 2023. States have had several different approaches to addressing the issue of legislator safety in the wake of this increased issue. So one approach is providing legislative funds. Nevada passed several pieces of legislation on member security in November 2025. An Assembly concurrent resolution permitted legislators to apply for a reimbursement of up to $5,000 for personal security costs incurred between November 2024 and November 2026. Senate Bill 2A then appropriated just over $2 million to their legislative fund to cover these costs. Iowa is actually currently considering legislation that would provide members at the General Assembly as well as statewide elected officials a one-time $5,000 reimbursement for installation of a home security system, as well as a monthly reimbursement up to $100 for operation of that system. So while some states are looking to provide legislative funds, many others are considering the use of campaign funds for security. A handful of states permitted security expenditures before 2025, such as California, Louisiana, and Minnesota. But last year, California removed the existing $10,000 lifetime cap on security expenditures, and they'll plan to reinstate it as an annual cap starting in 2029. Several state ethics commissions issued opinions last fall specifying personal security as an approved campaign expense, and at least 12 states are considering legislation in 2026 to permit personal security expenditures from campaign funds. The types of expenses that qualify, such as home security systems, cybersecurity software, or even security guards, are often indicated in the campaign finance opinions or legislation, and they frequently extend to campaign staff as well as immediate family members of legislators. In addition to providing funds to legislators, states are considering measures to keep legislators' personal information, such as home addresses, confidential from the public or from public record. Nevada included this measure in their security bills last November. And states are also examining how to equip and utilize legislative security employees through increased training, expanded staff, additional credentials, and relationship building with local law enforcement agencies. This is a very brief overview of what's happening in this space nationally, but I hope it provides some high-level context on legislative trends. I'm happy to follow up with additional information if needed, and please let me know if NCSL can be of further assistance on this matter.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Your Representative Underwood?
Thank you. Don't you think this is a duplication of effort? For example, like with the state, you get the state police, you have an attorney general, you have different law enforcement people who could help you out if you had a problem with some sort of threat, or would you be able to, well, my opinion, it's duplication of effort. It's not needed. So, but apparently they brought it forward and somehow they think there's a need for this. I don't think there is. I think there's plenty of law enforcement people who could help out any legislator who had a problem with security threats.
Thank you for the question. I'm not sure that it's my place to speak to whether or not it's a duplicative effort. I'm really just trying to give an idea of how other states are approaching this issue. But I will say that in most states, it's considered from a multi-prong perspective, that it's rarely just one bill covering full issue, but that states are coming at it from a few different angles to try to create broad coverage for legislator security.
Yep. Representative.
Ma'am, thank you for being here. One quick question for you. You said some states are looking into, is there any actual state right now that has this specific law on the books?
I'm not sure that there is a state that has this very specific security system focused law on the books. Iowa has something that is very, very similar that is pending right now. But there has been, Minnesota granted about $4,500 from chamber funds last year for legislators to use. There has been some broader legislation about a provision of funds. It's not spelled out in legislation specifically about security systems, but has a wider range of application. So not exactly, but something in the spirit of providing funds to legislators does exist, yes.
And the reason I asked that, because you said these states are also sending this entitlement or looking into sending this entitlement to staffers and the campaign people as well. I mean, this could potentially blow up to be a very expensive endeavor, correct?
Well, I want to specify that specifically when I have seen legislation that extends to campaign staff or family members, that's typically through the campaign finance route, in which case then there are obviously laws around, as the Senate president was kind of alluding to, whether or not a legislator needs to pay that back or return whatever they've purchased to the legislature itself. So that does vary state by state. I'm not sure that I've seen any legislation about legislative funds extending to staff.
Thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, we do have multiple pieces of information that were provided with this bill, including information from NCSL, which does talk about some of that as well. Any other questions? All right, is there anybody else here that would like to testify in favor of this bill? Okay, is there anybody that would like to testify in opposition to this bill? Hi there, welcome. Please come up and introduce yourself and sign in. Hi, buddy.
I know. Sorry, I apologize for my delay here.
No problem, take your time.
Good morning, committee, Representative Salisbury and Senator Baldacci and rest of the committee. My name is Gil Tierney. Excuse me, I wasn't prepared to speak this morning. My name is Gil Tierney. I'm from Augusta. You've all seen me around many times. I saw this bill just this morning, And I did briefly go over the amendment. And I thought I'd like to say a couple of things. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. First thing is, it seems like protection for thee and not for me. And I get plenty of threats. And I get plenty of, I am exposed to many of the same things as everybody here is. And if you, it should be for everybody, whatever you do. And the next thing is, a camera won't stop a gun. It just won't. You need a man with a gun right on the spot to actually stop an event from happening. The camera is just going to record whatever event might take place. It's after the fact. Doesn't even, it might be great in court someday or something like that, but it's not going to actually stop the event at all. Next thing is the exact threat level at which this system can be put into somebody's house should be defined. What exactly is a threat? Can you just say to somebody, well, I feel threatened, so there, give me $5,000 and they're going to put some kind of security system in their house. Another thing is the any of those security systems, particularly if they're Wi-Fi and if they're hosted, the minute that data either gets on the Wi-Fi or gets sent back to the host, now every person's privacy is compromised. You got to realize that is not a panacea. Your data from all your personal activities in your home is going to be on a remote server that you have no control over. Nobody in the state house is going to have control over it. They won't know where it is or how to protect it or if it's protected. So consider your privacy gone once you get one of those systems. And that's different than your security. Privacy, security is two different things. And the last thing I'll mention is this is a new budget item forever. If you want to do that with all the money we're not going to be getting in the future, you're adding a new bill because everybody, all the legislator are going to need this system put in. And they're going to need it next year and the year after. The threat is never going to go away. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gil. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. You talked about like the privacy and what goes here and there, but we did hear testimony about somebody having it personally local in their house without going to a cloud.
That is possible.
What is
But then
possible?
then you're very limited. Then you need to manage it yourself. It has to be set up exactly certain way. There's a very limited number of items you can do that with.
Okay, thank
There are a
you.
lot of limitations to doing that, but you're correct fundamentally. It has to be contained to the house, which also stops some of the benefit you're trying to get. Part of the benefit of this so-called is that the system would be aware that there's a break-in or some kind of threat taking place and it's going to notify somebody of something. Well, when it's only contained locally at your, excuse me, when it's contained locally at in your home, you're not going to get an alert on your phone that your house is under threat because it has to go to a host server before it gets to your phone or whatever part of the system there is to communicate. So it's you're correct, but also you're giving up a lot of what you think you're getting. uh, the different things. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Representative Farren?
Yes, thank you for coming in. You're saying that the cameras and it won't stop somebody with a gun or a bullet or whatever. But don't you think that a camera could be a deterrent of some sort? That the event may never happen if there was cameras?
It might be a deterrent, but how do you define that? You would hope it would be, but if it deters them, then maybe the threat really wasn't that imminent.
Thank you.
That never happens.
Any
Right,
other? Oh,
right.
sorry.
It's hard to define that.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right. Thank you for your time and testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here that would like to speak in opposition to this bill? Anybody that would like to speak neither for nor against this bill? Yes, Representative Tool?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the work session, could we get a list of, I know there's the bills I mentioned earlier more broadly, but I believe there's also a bill in criminal justice about providing state trooper coverage for the chief executive. And there's another bill somewhere about the judiciary. Could we maybe get a handle on what other security type bills we have for public officials and the broader needs of public security for the work session?
Absolutely. Thank you. Is there any other request for information for our work session for this bill? Yes, Representative Underwood.
I'd like to have some sort of amendment where it would allow state legislators to be able to carry Second Amendment added to this bill. Thank you.
All right, if you would like to propose an amendment, you can work with the analyst to work one up.
Thank you.
Okay, great. That closes the public hearing on LD 695. Thank you, Senator Pearce.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Back to the public hearing that we have left to.
Yeah.
Back to our public hearings, LD 2180, an act to make changes to the laws regarding the Department of Administrative and Financial Services, Bureau of Human Resources, and the State Civil Service Appeals Board, to be presented by our own Representative Sue Salisbury.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we had two members join us since we began.
Yes, yes,
I'm wondering if we could just
right.
give them an opportunity to
Yes.
introduce themselves.
Yeah.
3 members.
3 members, yes. Could we start with Representative Farren?
No.
No, he did not introduce himself first before. Go ahead, Representative Farren.
Yes, good morning. Wayne Farren from Jefferson.
Yep.
District 47, also represent Alna, Wiscasset, and Whitefield, all in Lincoln County.
Right, and Representative Copeland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Lynn Copeland, and I'm proud to represent House District 130, which is beautiful Saco. Thank you.
And Representative Adams?
I'm Representative Adams, extremely proud to represent District 144, the beautiful towns of Acton and Lebanon. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Pomerleau, go ahead and introduce yourself. You're on mute. You have to unmute yourself.
There we go. Good morning. I'm Kimberly Pomerleau. I represent House 85, which is Standish.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're all set to go. Representative Salisbury?
Great. Thank you, Senator Baldacci and distinguished colleagues on this Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. I am Sue Salisbury, represent House District 128, which includes part of Westbrook. I am here today to present LD 2180, which is an act to make changes to the laws regarding the Department of Administrative and Financial Services, Bureau of Human Resources, and the State Civil Service Appeals Board on behalf of the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. In a nutshell, this bill makes various changes to the laws related to the State Civil Service Appeals Board and the Department of Administrative and Financial Services Bureau of Human Resources and their functions. Part A adds exemptions to the law governing the unauthorized practice of law for a person who is not an attorney but is representing the state before the State Civil Service Appeals Board on a reclassification, reallocation, or reorganization appeal, or is representing the state before an arbitrator related to a grievance filed under a collective bargaining agreement. Part B amends the laws governing the procedure that an aggrieved employee and a state department or agency head must follow to submit a dispute to the State Civil Service Appeals Board. Part C eliminates the employee suggestion system. Thank you for your time and consideration. Several members of DAFs are here to present different sections of this bill, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Any questions for Representative Salisbury? Seeing none, thank you. Those who wish to speak in favor of the bill, come forward and identify yourself.
Hi, good morning. I already gave my testimony. It's being passed out. My name is Margaret Eddy. I am a legislative and policy analyst with the Bureau of Human Resources. Thank you, Senator Baldacci, and Representative Salisbury and the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. I'm testifying today in support of 2180, an act to make changes to the laws regarding the Department of Administrative Financial Services, Bureau of Human Resources, and the State Civil Service Appeals Board. It's very exciting. Let me just sign in real quick. As Representative Salisbury had said, Part A of this bill allows non-attorneys to represent the state before the Civil Service Appeals Board. This aligns with all other provisions already in law that allow non-attorneys to represent various departments before regulatory and administrative agencies. For example, non-attorneys may present before the Workers' Compensation Board, probate court for the DHHS, law enforcement officers and traffic court, the Maine PERS system, and the Tax Appeals Board, to name a few. We have several incredibly professional and knowledgeable employees working in compliance who have the expertise to represent the state on these issues, such as reclassification and reorganization appeals, as well as grievances under the collective bargaining agreements. Some of these employees do not have a license to practice law, but neither is that required for their job description or their classification. This will give the department more freedom to assign work to the appropriate experts and provide us greater flexibility for potential future hires. Part B of this bill makes various changes proposed by the Civil Service Appeals Board. The Civil Service Appeals Board is responsible for mediating disputes and hearing appeals on a variety of issues for non-union represented employees and managers. The board is organized under the Department of Administrative and Financial Services and BHR, but it's also responsible for reviewing our BHR decisions when appealed. And Susan Herman from the Civil Service Appeals Board, she's the chairperson, can give you more details about the proposed changes of Part B of this bill. The department and the board maintain separate functions because of their review of our decisions, but the department supports their changes proposed by the board, and we appreciate the work that the Civil Service Appeals Board does. Part C of this bill proposes to repeal the employee suggestion program. That's the program that provided cash or honorary awards to state employees who find substantial savings and efficiencies in state operations. This program has been redesigned multiple times over the years to address various concerns. The current law has been in place, I believe, since 2004, and that redesign added defined timelines, tracking formal committees, and a centralized board. Unfortunately, these solutions have not been effective and have created other problems for the department. It's become very burdensome to administer. To give an example of how this process worked, I attached a flow chart to my testimony to show how these suggestions move through the process. As you can see, if you look at your flow chart, this is complex based on a variety of statutory reasons that are both related or unrelated to the program, but they provide these barriers and hoops to jump through. Secondly, the participation levels over multiple administrations suggest the program no longer aligns with how improvements and ideas emerge today. In recent years, very few suggestions have been submitted, and most were ultimately ineligible due to duplication,
bargaining requirements, and the need for legislative action. To give you some examples, since 2009, with the data that we have, about 73 suggestions have been made. Only 4, so approximately 5%, were able to make it through the vetting process to be able to be considered. The vetting processing, it was a duplicative. Was it part of their job? Would it require legislative action? And only one of those was granted a cash award by a commission. The commission is the committee that awards them is made up of 3 commissioners. Commissioner level employees are very difficult to nail down and form a board. It's a very lengthy, complicated process. And it's not really awarding employees anything, and I think would be having a negative effect on employee morale, because after going through this process, they mostly have been denied. The legislative intent of the statute was to encourage state employees to be creative and innovative, to save the state and ultimately the taxpayer money. A process that requires several upper-level employees and then commissioners to invest a great deal of time only to result in a very few awards has not achieved that. This program is really admirable in its intent. We really appreciate it, and the intent of it, we really do appreciate our employees. It's not creating efficiencies or using our resources very wisely, and it's really, in fact, costing the state money while failing to reward innovative and loyal employees. Employees still can be recognized for their hard work in a variety of ways apart from this program. They can be nominated as Employees or Manager of the Year for their respective departments. They're eligible for special merit increases by their supervisors if they're below the top step in their positions. So the repeal of this program doesn't diminish the good work the employees do, and it doesn't prevent them from being recognized. But I think it would increase efficiencies and allow the department to stop with the program that is not really doing what it was meant to do. And I thank you, and I can take any questions, or if you'd like to hear about the Civil Service Appeals Board, I can leave.
No, sir. Representative Adams.
What's the union's position on this?
I don't know the union's position on this. I think they've had notice about it, but meaning the way we all do, but I can't speak to their position.
Okay, any other questions? Did you talk to the Bar Association, see what they thought?
The Bar Association. So that I could get rewarded too.
Exactly. For an employee suggestion.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We don't want to get into too many lawyer jokes.
No, exactly. I opened the door for that.
Yeah.
So, any other questions? No. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh.
For the
Oh,
work
I'm sorry. Go.
for the work session, can we get some kind of union opinion for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that will be necessary. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak in favor?
Good morning. Senator Baldacci, Representative Salisbury, and members of the State and Local Government Committee. My name is Susan Herman, and as stated earlier, I am here in my capacity as Chair of the State Civil Service Appeals Board, which I'm going to call the CSAB, in support of LD 2180. As you may recall, the CSAB was reconstituted in March of 2023 with the nomination and confirmation of 5 new members. Pursuant to 5 MRS Section 7081, the governor designated me as chair at that time. My testimony today focuses on Part B of LD 2180, which relates to the steps an employee must follow within their employing agency and the Bureau of Human Resources before taking an appeal to the CSAB. As stated earlier, the CSAB hears appeals related to state employee positions which are excluded from collective bargaining. There are 2 types of appeals. 1, grievances and disputes between individual state employees and their respective state agencies. And 2, appeals by an employee or appointing authority from the determination of the state human resources officer concerning the classification, reclassification, allocation, or reallocation of positions in the classified service. LD 2180 Part B relates to the first type of appeal in which an employee asks the CSAB to review a decision relating to a dispute between the employee and the employee's appointing authority. LD 2180 clarifies and simplifies the process an employee must complete before an appeal to the CSAB. Current law requires that an employee complete 4 steps. Step 1, an oral grievance to the employee's supervisor. Step 2, a written grievance to the employee's supervisor. Step 3, a written grievance to the department or agency head. And step 4, for classified employees, an appeal to the State Human Resources Officer. If an employee does not timely appeal each of these 4 steps, the CSAB does not have jurisdiction to hear the appeal. LD 2180 reduces the number of steps required from 4 to 2 and makes the time frame for appealing the required steps uniform at 21 days. Based upon the experience the CSAB has had with hearing appeals during the last 3 years, this amendment, if enacted into law, will simplify and clarify the steps an employee must follow prior to an appeal to the CSAB and reduces the potential for jurisdictional issues which arise if an employee appeals at the wrong step and/or is untimely. Thank you for this opportunity to offer testimony, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yep. Questions, Representative Adams?
I'm just gonna throw it out again. I'd like to get some kind of notification from the union on it. Usually with the collective bargaining agreement, there's usually an appeals process that's been agreed to prior to having it in place. So just something, what the union's position on this is as well.
Right, okay, go ahead.
This does not apply to employees in collective bargaining at all.
So this is for
This is for non-collective bargaining employees.
Okay.
The Civil Service Appeals Board only deals with people who are excluded from collective bargaining.
Any other questions? That's all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this bill? Okay. Seeing no one approach, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one approach, anyone wishing to speak neither for nor against? Okay, and nobody on Zoom? And therefore, I would declare the public hearing closed on this matter. Thank you very much. Yes.
I'm wondering if there's testimony here in our packet from a gentleman from Rhodes, from Unity. And I was wondering if we could ask him to come before us so I can ask questions about his written testimony.
He's present today?
I
Or you
I
mean
don't
for
know.
a later session? Is he present? You mean for
I
the
don't
work
think he
session?
was. He didn't stand up and speak.
Oh, okay. So, okay. And what's his name?
Matthew Rhodes of Unity.
Okay. So you'd like to hear from him?
Yeah, I'd like to
Okay.
be able to ask him questions about his testimony.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other requests for information by members of the committee? I think overall, as Representative Adams suggested, we should get a position paper from the union. Yes, then for a position paper on the bill. So at least we know where they're coming from. But other than that, I don't see any other requests. Thank you.
She just needs a few minutes to get set up.
Yeah, do we want to take a break? Okay.
Well, we'll go on work session. The conversion.
A conversion. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take we'll come back at 10:30. There you go. It's 11 minutes break. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So we will start, and this is a work session. The first item is LD 2009. And Kristen, why don't you take the floor?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So as a brief recap for the committee, LD 2009, you should have the folders on your desk. This is a bill that we previously scheduled a work session for on February 4th. The public hearing for this bill was on January 21st. It is my understanding at this time that Senator Moore, who's the sponsor of the bill, may have some information to share with the committee and potentially a proposed amendment that she has presented.
Yes, Senator Moore, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And first, I do want to thank all of you all for your patience with me in this whole bill and where we've gone start from one end and have gone to the other end. So I do really appreciate that. I think bottom line, what we were trying to accomplish is making sure that at least the county government is accountable and our audits are being done on a timely basis. Now, we all realize, and we've had the conversations about the lack of auditors and the length of time it's taken and so forth and so on and what's gone on. And Washington County is in a better place than they were when I put the bill in September. We're not, we've done a lot of hard work and there's a lot of things going on with that. But I think when I started looking at the statute for the county audits, it was just saying that every county shall have an audit made of its accounts annually covering the last complete fiscal year. And so that's where I got into the point of looking even further and saying, okay, maybe we need to strengthen that. And so what you're looking at, or the amendment you're looking at, still needs a little bit of work, but it is a strike and replace. And we're changing the title. So we'll do away with any words of bankruptcy because there was a lot of concern about that. So what we're saying is it's an act to clarify the requirements of a county audit. And so what I have added is that the section where it talked about in the middle of the page where when an audit is conducted by a certified public accountant, the audit upon completion must be forwarded to the office of the state auditor. And I've added a time frame there within 12 months of the close of the fiscal year. What I also included is exceptions may be granted under extenuating circumstances. Further conversations, we may have to expand that a little bit, meaning more the exceptions to what, being a little bit more definite as to the 12 months and getting it in. And we understand the extenuating circumstances could mean the lack of an auditor. And so that request, or that a request for an exception, would be made to the state auditor and just explaining why they're not able to meet that 12 months after the close of the fiscal year. So again, we've got to do some kind of wordsmithing on the wording to go with that. And then I did show on here that the Office of the State Auditor shall make public any requests for an exception along with its findings within 60 days. And that's just simply saying, that the Washington County has requested an exception or an extension because of whatever reasoning it was, just letting everyone know that. What I also added towards the end of it, and I think this was in conversation with the state auditor, is that they really do they need to do a little bit more than just posting the audit up onto the website. And so I added that they would also be reviewed for completeness and accuracy by the Office of the State Auditor prior to being posted to the department's website, just to kind of fine tooth it a little bit more.
Okay. Any questions? Representative Greenwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for doing the strike and replace. And again, we're just getting this. So I just have a question. I want to excuse me, and I'm choking here. I wanted to make sure that we're not asking the auditor to audit.
No.
So my concern is with the accuracy so where it says to be reviewed for completeness and accuracy. I would be more comfortable with just being completed and, that there's going to be that management letter inside. There's going to be, that they've completed their audit. But I'm just concerned with the language accuracy because that could make the auditor think that the state auditor would have to go in and do an audit. And I want to make sure that they're not doing an audit. They're just making sure that all the T's were crossed, the I's were dotted. It's got its management letter. It's got its clean opinion.
And thank you, Representative Greenwood. That was exactly what my thoughts were. I mean, because they don't have, I know they have 37 CPAs. However, they're not in the position to be doing the audits. And it would take more time for the accuracy. So I have no problem with striking that portion of it.
Just to strike and accuracy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for completeness, because right now no one's looking at it. So if they, and they may even have some questions, you know, that they may want to go back to the county and say, oh, you're missing the management letter. Where is that? Oh, we forgot to, fax that to you or whatever, however it's transmitted. So I appreciate that suggestion. And I have no
The
problem.
only other thing I would say is that, because I like the fact that these will be posted.
Yeah.
Maybe at the end where it says department's website, I would say within 30 days of receipt. So within 30 days of the time they get it, it should be up on their website. Is that? Yeah, go ahead.
I think they're currently posted as soon as they're received. I
Okay,
don't,
but I think that just maybe the lawyer and me thought it'd be better to have, a time frame in case it goes on too long. People ask, well, it doesn't say when. I mean, yes, I agree, this should be posted, but I would say within no later than 30 days from the date of receipt or something. Okay?
Okay.
Representative Tool?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for your hard work and your emails over the weekend. Senator Martin made a comment off mic about our relationship status, which I will not repeat, but I want to thank you for including me in this whole thing and going forward and putting such a good, no, such a good bill forward. The one thing I would ask is, do you think 12 months is too long, or the initial 12 months, would you and or the committee be open to lowering that to 6 months or 9 months? I mean, I just think 12 months is an eternity and could potentially be 2 years down the line.
Well, when in conversation with the state auditor, I was asking, when do they normally receive them? And he said, usually it's 6 to 12 months.
Okay.
That's where I got the 12 months. I was just kind of extending it. But he said typically they receive it between 6 to 12 months after the audit has been presented to the commissioners for approval and exception, to accept it. So that's where I came up with the 12 months.
No, and I appreciate that. And I also, and I'm fine with that if everybody's good with it being 12. I had another question, but I lost my train of thought on that. So if I think of it, I will come back to it. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Representative Salisbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Moore, for the work on this. Really been an interesting bill. And I just want, because we have the strike and replace, then we certainly open it up on language review for Kristen to continue to work, to come back with,
yes,
a final copy. And we just provided this to the county, so we know that they're going to have the opportunity to, perhaps add in. So we certainly, Kristen, if you, if we do get more feedback to keep that open, those lines of communication, so that when we do come back for language review, if we do need to make some changes or hear about some suggestions.
Absolutely.
Kristen?
Yeah, if I may, if that is the direction the committee goes at the time of a motion, if the committee wants to provide that latitude for me to work with, and then you specify the individuals, that would allow me to then work on drafting the committee amendment with that latitude.
Okay. Representative Salisbury?
I'd like to make a motion ought to pass as amended, and just reiterating that upon language review, that we're giving permission for Kristen to work with Senator Moore, work with Jim and the counties, Jim Cohen and the counties, if they provide any feedback or concerns, so we can incorporate that, since it is a strike and replace. And with a new title, we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to read that, and we can, unless it's anything substantial.
Thank you.
But the current strike and replace amendment as presented.
Okay. Yeah, Representative Greenwood?
I just wanted to ask if, because there was 2 suggestions already. One was to eliminate the word "and accuracy," and then one was to include within 30 days, if that was part of your motion.
No later than 30 days. Yeah.
Is that part of your motion, Representative Salisbury? And if it is?
Yes, to include the strike and replace. Thank you for pointing that out. So to take out the "and accuracy" wording and to add within 30 days at the very end. Thank you.
No later than 30 days from the date of receipt.
Or instead of within.
Noted.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Representative Tool?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think it is important for people all across the state to know that we all want accountability and we all want transparency. And I know the counties have objected to this for any number of reasons, the original bill, but also this. And I think it is deeply concerning that we have counties that counties have been resistant. And I think we need to move forward with it. And I also believe that if the lack of auditors is truly an issue, we will be making future decisions based on evidence with that cited in writing. If 10 counties come in and say, we can't find an auditor, then we know we need to have a bill or future legislation to try to address those issues. And we may know it now anecdotally, but we need to have the evidence-based, as is the buzzword around this building. We need to be evidence-based in how we deal with it. So having this provides that. And I think going forward, this is one step towards accountability and transparency, and I wholeheartedly support it.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments? Yeah. Thank you, Senator Moore.
Thank you all very, very much.
Yep, thank you.
Now I can sleep. Thank you so much.
Looks like I'm going to start with Representative Tool. Representative Tool, what's your vote?
Yes.
Representative Tool is yay. Representative Underwood?
Yes.
Representative Underwood, yay. Representative Adams?
Yes.
Representative Adams, yay. Representative Parmelo? You gotta come off mic, I think.
You gotta, yeah, unmute. You're still muted.
Yeah. Go like this.
Up or down?
Yeah.
Representative Parmelo, yay. Representative Greenwood.
Thank you.
Change, you got it working.
Yes.
Representative Greenwood, yay. Representative Salisbury, yes. Representative Salisbury, yay. Senator Baldacci?
Yes.
Senator Baldacci, yay. Senator Martin?
Yes.
Senator Martin, yay. Senator Beebe Center?
Yes.
Senator Beebe Center, yay. Representative Copeland? Yes. Representative Copeland, yay. Representative Rollins?
Yay.
Representative Rollins, yay. Representative Farren?
Yay.
Representative Farren, yay. I have unanimous for all present. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Senator Moore. Next item is LD 2014, an act to eliminate the requirement for municipalities to provide public notice in a newspaper. Kristen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so for LD 2042, those folders should already be at your desk. This is a bill that was heard on January 21st, and the committee previously held a work session on this on February 4th. At that time, the committee had asked stakeholders that had come forward on this bill, including the Maine Press Association and the Maine Municipal Association, to see if they'd be willing to come back before the committee at a future work session to talk about any language or compromise that they had mentioned they were working on at that time. It is my understanding those stakeholders are here today and may have language available to the committee.
Okay. Yep, come forward.
Now I have.
Yeah, why don't you both come up? I'm sorry. What was that?
No, he just brought me a folder.
Oh, okay.
And he said I left over on his desk. I didn't. Now I have two.
Oh.
But, ended up two of them. I was trying to figure out what was going on and let him know.
So if you could identify yourselves for the record?
Good morning, Senator Baldacci and Representative Salisbury, Mark Stoddard with the Maine, or representing the Maine Press Association.
Okay.
Good morning, I'm Rebecca Lambert and I'm with the Maine Municipal Association.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I understand there have been productive discussions. And do you want to report where we are today?
Sure. Well, we have had very productive discussions. And really what happened is we got together and were able to do some discovery about really what was driving the problem, or what the problem, kind of the first problem was. And it really became a matter of discovering that the main problem was timing with the changes in newspaper print schedules around the state for some of the smaller newspapers, weekly newspapers. It was creating a problem for some towns, at least one in particular, out in Farmington, where they were getting out of sync with trying to schedule a public hearing and schedule the notice in the print newspaper. And when the print newspaper was publishing only every other week, it was causing a problem for them to get the timing right. Hearings were getting delayed because of it and so forth. So we thought, let's first figure out this problem. And so we took a look at, well, how can we get the notice in effect published more quickly? And the solution was to take a look at where we already allow publishing of notices in the state website that is managed, I think through section 603 in the public notice statute, that we could use that as a way to publish quicker for the local town and then follow up with notice published in print. So it would solve that problem of when will the notice get done and when will the hearing be held, but then we can get the official notice happening in print. So we've provided language to you that makes an amendment to the proposed bill that takes care of that. Rebecca, any other thoughts on that?
I'll just say that MMA is pleased that the Press Association was willing to work with us on an amendment to address some very legitimate concerns that the town of Farmington had. And we hope that this opens the door to future collaboration and conversations.
Okay. Questions from by members of the committee? Any questions or comments? Yes, senators.
Thank you. With so few newspapers being printed, how else is the word getting out?
Well, the print, if I may, the print
Yeah.
schedules are changing, but the websites and the digital efforts are continuing and expanding.
Okay.
And I think what we're seeing around the state is as print declines, the digital readership is
It's
going
going
up.
up.
And
Okay.
so it's allowing us to make continued investment in the reporting staffs to be able to do that and get the word out. But it's just reader habits are changing and the method of getting delivery is changing.
I know, at least in my area, it's, people love the paper, newspaper, and they do not want to change their life by going online. So it's sort of a reluctance there.
Yeah, we're kind of at a point where we're in the middle doing both.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Yes, Representative Greenwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's always nice when two sides can come to some compromise. But I just, and I'm obviously looking at supporting a compromise here, but it doesn't answer part of the concern that was brought forth by municipalities about the cost structure of these public notices. And, you know, the argument that we've heard for years has been, well, the print paper is the way to go. And that's why it needs to be in the print paper. But now we're allowing it to go on to the newspaper's website as an alternate to the print paper to meet those requirements if the print paper isn't going to print in time. So I'm going to support this, but just know that the concerns from many of the municipalities has not been met here with the cost associated with this type of requirement. And I will see how this goes, but just know that a bill may come forward in a future session that would maybe reconsider the issue. But I'm willing to support something when two sides can come together, but I don't think it meets the full objections that the municipalities had.
Representative Adams.
Just a quick question. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but how much does it cost on average to put it on I know you sell subscriptions to digital newspapers and whatnot, but how much does it actually cost and to put it, because you argument, well, you can put it on because of the schedule, you can put it on the digital webpage prior to the newspaper coming out. how much on average would that, something like that cost?
Yeah, I'd struggle to give an average cost for it, but I do know that typically the cost of putting together a notice on the newspaper side is really all in kind of the first thing, processing it, bringing it into the system, doing all of that. And then the cost, kind of goes down with subsequent publications, but we'd have to get back to you on kind of an average cost.
Is it, I'm sorry, is it the cost for one notice or is it a digital cost notice plus a newspaper
For
notice?
this, I think what we've done here is we're not changing any of the cost structure by changing this. Still the cost is there for the notice and going into print.
Okay. Yes, Representative Salisbury.
In the current statute, it says that they can't charge an additional fee for placing the notice on the website or for submitting in the electronic repository. So the only cost would be putting it in the paper.
Right.
So there's no cost to put it on the website. So it would just be that whatever the cost is to add that to the paper.
Yeah, correct. And I will, just to answer Representative Greenwood's comment, one of the benefits of the discussions we've had about this bill and this issue is it's opened up an opportunity for us to keep talking and to be talking over the coming weeks and months about how do we look at modernizing the public notice process? How do we do some things that might help on some of the cost side? And then also what we can do to make notice even more effective than it's ever been so that the public and citizens have the transparency that they need.
Well, I appreciate the work that both of you have done. I think this is a help for the town of Farmington as well as probably several other towns. And we may be in a similar situation, but I think at least it's an improvement, and I appreciate the fact that you're going to continue to talk.
Great.
I mean, that's a lot right there. So is there a motion?
Wait,
Oh, I'm sorry,
I have
Representative
a follow-up
Salisbury.
question. So we had talked about at the original public hearing about water districts and other things being included. Senator Black had indicated he was okay adding that wording. But would other things did you guys talk about that, like having other forms of government or the water districts? I'm trying to see here what I wrote that we had talked about. So water districts weren't being included in the original notice.
We focused on towns, so we didn't address that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess
Yeah.
that's the area for future discussions.
All right.
Yeah, Representative Greenwood.
Yeah, since we really haven't made the requirement to post go away, I would be fine with expanding this clause to municipalities, counties, quasi-independent municipal and agencies, sewer and water districts, et cetera. I'm not sure the exact verbiage for those, but because they're still required to post, this just encompasses all of them in the same statute.
Well, can you comment on that?
I think I'd have to spend some time with the members of the MPA and do some thinking about that. On first glance, seems pretty reasonable, but I think we probably need to take a moment to think that through.
Yeah, I think that will open up it's a good suggestion, but I think at this stage, something that they should talk about and maybe come back to it the future, next year.
Yeah.
But I don't want to disturb, the efforts that have been made here to reach an agreement. Representative Salisbury?
Right now, if I'm reading this right, the public notice requirement, it just says a municipality required. And so we're not changing that part of it. It's just the other pieces.
Yeah.
So we would be adding something that's not currently listed, right?
We certainly could pull that into the discussions we'll be having in the coming weeks
Yeah.
and months.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Representative Tool?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll be honest, even this weekend, I received a message from a close friend, former member of the legislature. What was I going to do with this bill? And that point was not holding out a lot of hope that an agreement could be made. And I had said I would probably be voting no. I think we need to tread softly, but I think it is a reasonable amendment. And notices are still going to be published for those who for whatever reason, either by choice or by lack of access, don't have the internet, and they'll still be in the paper, they'll still be published. There are situations that come up with a newspaper where people love to wait till the last minute to get their ads in, and having dealt with that firsthand, it's unavoidable. So I think this is probably the best way to go, and I would support it. And probably I got to commend both sides on coming to where they've landed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Senator Martin?
I think that all taxpayer notices coming from municipal governments and all of the things should be included in this. And if it takes another week to put that in, I would be in favor of this bill if that was done, and I'm not in favor of it the way it is. If it's going to be taking care of municipalities, it should be taking care of the water districts and the sewer districts and everything else the taxpayers pay for in the towns that need to put notices out from time to time. So I don't think that's unreasonable, and I don't think it would be that hard to do. I think it's another paragraph or two at the most, and just upgrade the amendment you have. I like what you did. I think it's good work, but I'd like to see that in that before I voted yes on the bill. Thank you.
So, we could always, I guess, revisit this at language review, and that would give us time to let the Press Association talk to its members.
Right.
And we could re-vote then. I'm not ready to commit to a policy when one side hasn't even talked to their members. And we're just saying X, Y, or Z. We try to encourage this voluntary discussion process, so I don't want to override it. So I'm comfortable going forward, and then I guess we could reconsider it at the language review if we need to expand it. But I understand the concerns of the others, but go ahead, Representative Salisbury.
Well, I'm just wondering if we, this seems more than a language review situation because we're amending what's currently required. So I think if we're considering adding that wording, we should specify what we're considering adding today as a potential amendment and tabling the bill until they have a chance to speak. I think it should be very clear because we're amending what's currently required. I think it's more than a language review. So if the committee wants, then we should specify what we're changing the wording a municipality to as an amendment and let them go back and discuss.
Well, yeah, and then they need to come back to us and tell us
Yeah,
what
oh,
their
yeah,
position is, because obviously I really don't want to disturb this agreement, but I guess the proposed amendment would be that any public notice, is that correct?
Yeah.
By a public entity or, right? I mean, I'm just asking. the
Yeah,
committee.
yeah.
Right, okay.
I think that's it.
Yep. Representative Rollins?
Yeah, just a projection of what type of turnaround, how much time do you think that would take for you to get feedback?
Yeah, I would think at least a week. So it's going to take a bit of time for us to work the thinking through and see what the unintended consequences might be.
Yeah.
I don't think a month, but a week or two.
Sounds doable.
Yep. Representative Copeland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also believe that this is a whole new piece of it. And I'm concerned that time's going to run out and things are going to get crazy busy, as we all know happens in the later session time. I think we should put this in and just talk about something coming up next year. Maybe put that in at that time. Because if it's not going to go back to a public hearing, right?
Right.
So it's not going out for a public hearing notice that this big change is happening. And we'd need to hear from all those parties. So I will be voting for this amendment as it stands here, which is well done.
Do you want to
by
make a
both parties.
motion?
I make that motion.
Okay, and I second it. I agree with Representative Copeland that it invites a whole host of parties that may need to be consulted with. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too will be supporting the motion as amended. as much as I would like to see the bill have gone further, it didn't. But I think this is a step in the right direction. And I think in moving this, you know, it is a modest change. And maybe the test pilot be just municipalities, and I'm willing to exclude the counties and quasi-independent agencies, et cetera. So I'm comfortable with the amendment as it stands. Again, I may look to go forward in future years, but I think this is a step in the right direction, and I appreciate the work from the Press Association and MMA on this.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you. Yes, Kristen, you wanted to make some comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may only, for the folks, on this report, may I clarify if I'm permitted to work with the stakeholders that presented the language for any technical questions that may arise when drafting?
Yes. Is that okay, Representative Copeland? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'll start the vote with Representative Tool. Representative Tool, what is your vote?
Yes.
Representative Tool votes yay. Representative Underwood?
Are we voting on an amendment or the actual bill?
The amendment that we've been presented.
Yes.
Representative Underwood, yay. Representative Adams?
I'm gonna go yes.
Representative Adams, yay. Representative Pomelo?
Yes.
Representative Pomelo, yay. Representative Greenwood?
Yes.
Representative Greenwood, yay. Representative Salisbury?
Yes.
Representative Salisbury, yay. Senator Baldacci?
Yes.
Senator Baldacci, yay. Senator Martin?
Yes.
Senator Martin, yay. Senator Beebe Center?
Yes.
Senator Beebe Center, yay. Representative Copeland?
Yes.
Representative Copeland, yay. Representative Rollins?
Yay.
Representative Rollins, yay. Representative Farren?
Yay.
Representative Farren, yay. So I have 12. 12 in favor, 1 absent.
Okay, now we just have
this spot is- Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to turn the gavel over to
Take your time.
Madam Chair, and I have to.
We're-
Another place.
Thank you, Senator Baldacci.
Bless you.
So the committee,
Oh, I
next,
just-
we're just gonna give Kristen time to get set up, but we have quasi independent state entity reviews, the Maine Municipal Bond Bank and the Maine Government Facilities Authority. We just need like 10 minutes.
Right. But I
I
think
was
we,
trying to include it. I don't think it was a big deal.
yeah, no, I understand, but I think that at least it's set up.
You turn your mic on.
Yeah. I'm still on mic and we're going to reconsider the bill we passed regarding the Levinson Center. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to provide an update of some
Yeah, just
concerns
give
I
us-
had, if that may be helpful to the committee.
Sure.
So LD 2138, and I could, if it may be helpful to committee members, I'm happy to also request that folders be pulled, but happy to provide a concern. So the committee may remember that the committee voted unanimously ought to pass as amended, on LD 2138, which is a resolve authorizing the Department of Administrative and Financial Services to convey the interests of the state in certain real property in Bangor last Wednesday. That was the United Cerebral Palsy of Maine Elizabeth Levinson Center. The committee report at that time included amending the resolve one, to provide me as the analyst with the latitude to verify what the official name of the organization was. In the testimony provided, it was referred to as UCP of Maine. In the resolve as printed, it was UCP of Northeastern Maine. So that has been completed. I did confirm that the legal name for the organization is UCP of Northeastern Maine, which is reflected in the resolve as printed. And the second piece was to add an emergency preamble that stated the imminent repairs needed by the organization and the summer construction deadlines. So during a discussion with my office, I will note that the request to add an emergency preamble was flagged as a possible concern for the committee's consideration based on language in Article 4, Part 3rd, Section 16 of the Constitution, which has a provision that stipulates emergency bills may not include the sale or purchase or renting for more than 5 years of real estate. Our office did consult internally with the Office of the Attorney General to confirm whether our concern around adding an emergency preamble, an emergency clause may appear to conflict with the Constitution. And the Deputy Attorney General and another additional Assistant Attorney General did agree with that interpretation and provided the suggestion that 2138 should not be enacted with the emergency preamble and emergency clause. So based on that information, I did want to flag this as a concern for the committee's consideration. And I will note that where this was a department bill, I did reach out to the department to make them aware of this concern. And they did provide a note back to me that they were not concerned by that and they would be able to proceed on a normal timeline and could assemble the paperwork and get it prepared so that they were ready to move forward when the resolve would take effect in the absence of an emergency preamble if that were to be removed after 90 days. So I just wanted to provide that information for the committee's consideration.
Representative Greenwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having voted on the prevailing side of LD 2138, I would request that we reconsider our actions.
Been moved and seconded? Yes. Representative Copeland.
Thank you. I don't have the folder and I would really like to have the folder before I,
Ask our clerk to get one for you.
what's that?
Yeah, she
She can
can,
ask our clerk.
the clerk can provide it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have a copy of the bill or?
I'm sorry, no, that would be in the folder. It'd be
Oh,
in the folder as printed. I apologize, but that would be 2138 and we could certainly, if the committee provides a latitude, we could allow the clerk to pull the folder.
Yeah, go ahead, Representative Greenwood.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And it wasn't my intent to take anybody by surprise. We were just made aware of this. I'm merely looking to push us back to reconsider so that we can remove the emergency, which is what all parties, have indicated is needed. And then again, move the bill without the emergency and hopefully it'll be unanimous as well, as it was the first vote.
Right, right.
We just need to vote.
Yes, Representative Copeland and then Representative Rollins. Dave, can you shut your mic off?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a request that, when we get all these papers and yellows and oranges, and I love the color coding, but can we put the LD number on them so we don't have to sit here and try and figure out which
These
goes?
aren't LDs. These are
Just
quasi-independent.
procedures, okay.
Yeah, that's why.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so the clerk is now distributing the bill. In case anybody had questions about the bill. Yes, Representative Rollins.
So I'm with my seatmate here confused. Was she talking about anything to do with these things in front of us?
No, these are for a briefing that you're gonna have after we do this matter.
Okay.
Okay, but it seems like we're hit from all sides with paper and trying to figure it out. I understand exactly what you're talking about. But to just, right now, we're just trying to clean up the procedural issue on 2138.
Makes perfect sense now.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to reconsider. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Matters now on the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move LD 2138 ought to pass as amended, as we previously had without the emergency preamble.
Everything the
And-
same?
And including the name change.
If
Just a second. Are you, anything else you wanted to say? Okay, okay, now you can talk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the name change would not be necessary, in light of it is written as, United Cerebral Palsy of Northeastern Maine. So the latitude provided was for me to confirm and change it if necessary. No longer needed. The bill as printed currently reflects the legal name. If it were the will of the committee not to include the emergency preamble, in effect, it would just be ought to pass.
Oh, okay, because the original bill did not have an emergency.
That is correct. The original bill as printed has no emergency preamble, and
okay.
based off the verification I was given, or the latitude I was given to verify, the name of the organization as printed in the
Is
bill
correct.
is also
So
correct.
actually, the original bill is fine.
All right, so I would move ought to pass.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We're going to take a roll call. Thank you, Kristen. Thank
you, Mr.
you,
Chair.
members of the committee. It's one of those rare circumstances when the actual original bill was perfect.
Representative Tool, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Tool, yay. Representative Underwood.
Yes.
Representative Underwood, yay. Representative Adams.
Yay.
Representative Adams, yay. Representative Pomelo.
Yes.
Representative Pomelo, yay. Representative Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Greenwood, yay. Representative Salisbury.
Yes.
Representative Salisbury, yay. Senator Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Baldacci, yay. Senator Martin.
Yes.
Senator Martin, yay. Senator Beebe Center.
Yes.
Senator Beebe Center, yay. Representative Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Copeland, yay. Representative Rollins.
Yay.
Senator Rollins, yay. Representative Farren.
Yay.
Representative Farren, yay. 12 in favor, 1 absent.
Turn the battle to Salisbury and I will convince you to do.
Great, thank you.
That's Italian, isn't it? Probably not.
Probably not. All right, so the next part of our session is going to be the quasi-independent state entity reviews. Again, we have the Maine Municipal Bond Bank and the Maine Government Facilities Authority. And we'll let Kristen explain the information that we have been provided.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do apologize. There are a lot of pieces of paper on your desk. These all actually pertain just specifically to the quasi-independent state entity review that we have scheduled for today. Before I kindly defer also as well at the committee's direction, Executive Director Terry Hayes is also president. And Executive Director Hayes serves as the director of the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, as well as the Maine Government Facilities Authority. But to kind of orient the committee to the papers that have been passed out, I will briefly provide an overview, but to talk about, you have kind of a packet on this kind of cream piece of paper that talks about, at the top, it says, Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government Review of Quasi-Independent State Entities Overview, and it is dated for February 2026. I will read this document briefly, or just the cover page. The second page is, I should say, the attachments that ensue are portions of statute that talk about why we're doing this here today and the responsibilities of the committee. The reports that have been distributed by the Maine Government Facilities Authority and the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, those were submitted electronically previously to the committee and have been printed and put on this yellow packet. Pursuant to statute, the committee is required to look at the reports for the previous 2 years. In this case, it is fiscal years. So it's for fiscal years 2024 and 2025. I will note I tried to do some color coding within that in a table of contents so you can understand for each kind of report. There's a letter from the executive director of the Legislative Council that says, you're receiving this report. There's a letter of transmittal from the executive director that says, here's this report, and then it is the actual report. So I did make a table of contents to show where each of the report begins and ends, and in the sequential order. I did it most recently, starting with the 2025 reports received this year and the 2024 reports received last year. And there are page numbers as well, if that may help the committee. You will also see the policy documents. That is an additional requirement pursuant to statute that the organizations have policies pursuant to these particular items, which I will go over. That is in purple. That is your purple packet. There also has been a table of contents. For a piece of ease for the committee, I might add that the Maine Government Facilities Authority and the Maine Municipal Bond Bank have the same policies. They pertain to both quasi-independent state entities. So all the policy documents you will need are in that purple packet that you will see here. An example, you'll also see in a cream color, you'll see with my kind of poor handwriting at the top that says example, you'll see examples of past letters that have come from this committee over the years that reflect the statutory requirement for the committee to review the quasi-independent state entities and to provide a letter, perhaps such as this, to the Government Oversight Committee talking about the review and any recommendations or concerns that the committee has. So should that be helpful to the committee, I do have those examples present. So I know a lot of handouts. The last two you'll see are these salmon rubrics. I labeled them for each, so you should have two. One is for the Maine Municipal Bond Bank. I filled it in just with the dates and the statutory requirements you can see as the committee goes over that information and help to differentiate between the two. One is labeled for you as the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, and the other one is labeled for you as the Maine Government Facilities Authority. So that kind of concludes the broad overview. I do apologize of a lot of the pieces of paper here. If it's a pleasure of the committee, I know also many committee members have gone over this, so I can avoid reading the broad overview if that's helpful to the committee. But broadly speaking, the last section on that tan packet that talks about the overview of the process, what is required of this committee. We're here today doing the first bullet point, conducting every second regular session, this review. We are asked to review the entity's annual reports. Those are in your yellow packet to the legislature for the previous 2 calendar years and additional information as necessary. That references also the policy documents to determine 1, the policies adopted by the entity, whether they are consistent with the requirements of statute. That is all outlined for you in question format in the rubric. 2, whether the reported waivers of competitive procurement are in compliance with the adopted policy, also on your rubric for you, and reported contributions, whether they are in compliance with adopted policies. So happy at the committee's direction to walk through the rubric at any point in the review if that may be helpful, but at this time I will defer to the direction of the committee and also note that the executive director is here to perhaps provide additional information to the committee.
Sure, I would welcome Gary to come forward, please. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much for your patience and being here today.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. So you'll have to tell me what's the best way for us to go forward with this. What's the most easiest and expeditious way? Not expeditious because we want to enjoy every piece of this review and make sure we do it thoroughly, but if you
Are
had
you
to
asking me?
Whoever would like to answer.
I
don't.
I would suggest if the rubric is the end product of the conversation, then let's let the rubric lead us.
That'd be great.
That would make sense, except I don't have one. Now I do.
Okay, and why don't we start then with the Maine Municipal Bond Bank? Yeah, please.
Got it.
Certainly, Madam Chair. I would be pleased if it may be helpful to read the statutory provision to orient the committee.
Can we just stop and start and everybody get on the same page, because I'm completely confused with all of this right now. It goes all the way back to 2020. And so, I mean, I can't be the only one that's completely confused about what all this stuff means.
So,
Start again.
okay. So these 2 documents here are the rubrics that we have to evaluate the reports that we've received. And we've received reports from the Maine Government Facilities Authority and the Maine Municipal Bond Bank. The document that I think that you're referring to, this one, these are just examples. Okay, so these two documents here that you're looking at there, Senator Martin, these are the rubrics where we have to review those reports to make sure they're in compliance with what they're statutorily required to do. And they're two different entities.
You're supposed to have two pieces of paper?
Yes.
Pieces just like that.
Yep, one of them is from the Maine Municipal Bond Bank. And one, I think you're missing some documents. I don't know if they got.
Police authority is the other one.
Okay, then that's probably it.
It's the same document, just snipped it at the very top.
Okay,
Oh, you got them? Okay. All right, so we have the two documents there. So I can help you with the other documents that might be easy to put away. This document here that says what is a quasi-independent state entity, I would just set that aside. You don't need that.
Why do we have it then?
It's
You don't need it for the purpose of this review. It's for informational only if you wanted to know why we have to do these reviews.
Used to do.
Yeah. And then the purple document is the document that was provided from the Government Facilities Authority and the Maine Municipal Bond Bank. These are the policy documents.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
No, you're.
I'm sorry, what?
Continue.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Oh, I see. Okay. And then the other document that we'll be using.
Also, just so I
Okay.
know about the purple one.
Yeah.
Page 7 through 16 is actually ends up page 10. Is that right?
I can help offer a point of clarification
go
that may
ahead.
help. So some documents were merged for ease of access to avoid providing additional handouts. So I wrote in my own big handwriting, that's the page numbers. You are correct that the travel policy does have its own page numbers on it. But I wrote in kind of bigger print, the kind of full page numbers that correspond to the table of
So
contents.
7 through 16 is actually 1 through 10.
Yep, but the seven's right above that one, if that helps. That's the numerical ordering. If you open up that packet, and you are correct, if you find that travel policy that has that tiny 1 written in the bottom corner, you'll see a large kind of 7 written above it. So I renumbered.
I wasn't looking for that in particular. I was just trying to figure out the table of contents against the written numbers and the printed numbers.
Yes, thank you. Some of them
Okay, yeah.
do have those printed.
I just really want to understand.
Sure. No, of course. So when we look at the purple documents, we'll look at the handwritten numbers to explain the page numbers for those. And then the other reports that we're going to be reviewing with these salmon documents is this yellow packet that has the reports from the Maine Government Authority and the Maine Municipal Bond Bank. So we'll be using those to review using the rubrics. So both of those. Yep, and we'll take our time going through it so that we make sure if anybody has any questions about those. So again, what we'll do is we'll go through. Oh, and just as an explanation, Senator Martin, this other document, these are examples of letters that were sent from other committees. This is done every 2 years. And these are just examples to look at when we get ready to do our letter. This is what it would look like. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and go back to the Maine Municipal Bond Bank document, and we can go through those. And again, if you want to explain just the first part about the review and the report, Kristen?
Certainly, no problem, and happy to answer to any questions that may arise. So, if anyone is on this kind of the salmon colored chart right here, as the chair mentioned for the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, I will note that we are conducting this review in compliance with this statutory provision that I'll read. So, committee review and report. So, by March 1st of every second regular session, beginning in 2016, a joint standing committee of the legislature receiving reports pursuant to subsection 2, and that was just the subsection above that talks about the receipt of the reports you have here today, shall review the reports received within the past 2 calendar years. So that's for 2020, they're done on fiscal years, but 2024 and 2025, and gather additional information as necessary from the submitting entities. And that additional information as necessary, perhaps is your purple packets, such as the policy documents, to assess whether the policies and procedures adopted by a governing body in accordance with, that section of law, subsections 3 through 5, which are reproduced below. We have to look at the selection of vendors, the contributions by the organization, as well as the travel, meals, and entertainment policies, to determine whether they are consistent with the expectations established in those subsections, and whether all reported waivers of competitive procurement and reported contributions made are in compliance with the adopted policies and procedures, including proper justification and documentation. And finally, the Joint Standing Committee shall then report the results of its review, including any areas that should be reviewed in more depth, to the Joint Legislative Committee established to oversee program evaluation and government accountability matters, which is the GOC. So this kind of template that I have here, if the committee did want to proceed with taking it in this section, is the broader question with this statutory provision that the committee would want to consider in this review for this section is, are the policies, which is this purple document here, adopted by the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, consistent with the expectations of Title V, Section 2022, subsection 3 through 5. And that statutory reference is reproduced right in that chart below. So for the first question, are the policies adopted by the Maine Municipal Bond Bank consistent with, starting with subsection 3, the selection of vendors? The requirement in statute is that written policies and procedures implemented by July 1, 2013, governing the selection of vendors must be designed to ensure that the entity secures the best value in its procurements and must, A, establish competitive procurement as the standard procurement method. B, specify the conditions under which competitive procurement may be waived. And C, for procurements exceeding $10,000 that were not competitively procured, require that written justification for and evidence of approvals are maintained on file for 5 years. If it may be helpful, the committee can find the selection of vendors policy in that purple packet. And if it may be helpful for the committee additionally, as you read that, you may find that information particularly on page 2 of your purple packet.
All right, so we can let the committee take a few moments to take a look at that document and from the viewpoint of the question around the selection of vendors to confirm that the information that's required, we believe, is provided in those documents.
Yes.
And I have no objection and would encourage Ms. Hayes to share any insight or anything that she feels would be important for us to hear regarding this. But I mean, it was drawn out on page 2, and if she just wanted to verify how things are going, that would be great.
Certainly. When it comes to this component that you're looking at, we use the $10,000 figure. Anything that is greater than that, there are a few exceptions. They're described. For example, payroll. Cumulatively, we clearly surpass the $10,000 a year, but there are multiple things. The health insurance coverage for the staff and so forth, where there are monthly payments. We've talked about the fact that we have not gone and done an RFP around health insurance because we're part of the Maine Health Trust, and we believe that it's the best deal going, and we're sticking with them. We haven't looked at doing that differently precisely for that reason. But as you look down on, purple page 2 and into page 3, we in fact use the $10,000 cap. There are rarely is there something that is of an emergency nature, which would exempt which might step in. I'll give you for instance here. I think it was in my second year at the bond bank. We had a potential data leak. It turned out that it wasn't. There was a vulnerability within the Microsoft software that left us exposed. We discovered it. It cost us $15,000 with a forensic, I'll get the terminology wrong, but internet company to come in to triage, to find out what exactly happened, what if anything was exposed. The short answer was nothing. They had penetrated, but everything had been left as was. And we didn't shop that. We needed to do it right away so that we understood if the vulnerability had actually caused any damage, whatever, to our data system. And that was 3 or 4 years ago. Internally, the board, the bond bank board gets, they meet monthly, and they get a treasury report that indicates anything that is out of the usual, specifically outlined so that they're aware of it. The most recent, I was thinking about this, or several things that we've done that have been either a specific RFP process or as a result of getting multiple quotes. The physical improvement that we did is we purchased a full building generator. The bond bank building is located on the other side of town, right? You know where Bangor Savings is in front of the Civic Center? That's our building. We occupy the second and the third floors. We purchased a full building generator for when the power goes down. We had a power outage that we had suffered previously. What we needed to do, we sat down with the board and said, here's the deal. I mean, it's significantly problematic as a bank. And we researched and we ended up going with the lowest cost because it's also the best service. And I'm very pleased with that outcome. That installation was completed last fall. So the other thing we needed to are telephones that are throughout the office. The contract is up. They're not servicing them anymore. That's a significant expense. And we just finished an RFP and awarded that for an internet-based carrier that will reduce the cost and yet be manageable, whether one is working remotely or working in the office. But that was an RFP process. We did an RFP last fall for, we have 3 staff in-house that are our technology team, but there are occasions when we run into issues that we need to contract with an outside provider. We RFP'd that role. It's not really the internet service provider, it's broader than that. And again, went with the firm that had the best service, and it's a great pleasure when you can do that and the entity is local, or at least in Maine, which is something that we consider as we go. We like keeping the money in the neighborhood when doing that is in the best interest of the purchase, of the organization. Now, I don't know. I didn't look at it as completely as this rubric did. So there's a part of me that says, feel free to question me if I'm leaving something out.
I think what the best thing will be what we'll do is we'll look at the different questions that are asked of us. And we're looking, first of all, to make sure that within these policy documents, that there's policies and procedures around the selection of vendors that are designed to ensure that the entity secures the best value in its procurement. And I think those similar words are listed in this policy document.
And to point out that the policy document covers 3 entities. The one that's not highlighted is the Health and Higher Educational Facilities Authority, because their oversight is done by the Department of the Education Committee, not the department, but the committee. So it's the same document that you would be answering on both orange pages.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes, Senator Martin.
Okay, on page 2, on the purple document on the bottom, it says record retention policy to be on file for a minimum of 7 years. Okay, and then on the salmon colored one, under 3C, it says it's maintained on file for 5 years. Is that different things or is that the same thing and it's a mistake?
It's the same thing. We, by internal policy at the bond bank, we keep everything for a minimum of 7 years. And bond documents, we keep longer than that. Okay?
Well, how come this one says 5 years? then?
Because that's what's required of us. We're just doubling down and keeping it for 2 more years.
Okay,
We're meeting the requirement and then some. And that's only to be consistent throughout the organizations. Okay.
thank you.
Representative Rollins?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at the criteria that we have to answer, point B, specify the condition under which competitive procurement may be waived. And all I see, and I think it's vague, is the executive director may waive the request for proposal process for any purchase if she or he believes that another method is efficient and cost effective. Well, that's pretty vague and not current members or directors, but I feel that that's a window there that could create shenanigans. And does it need to be vague?
Can you tell me where you're reading that? Which page?
Procurement of supplied products of services. Second page.
Okay. It's
middle of the page.
the last sentence under the first paragraph. That is
I'm
the,
not sure what that means.
well, I think it means what it says. And if there was a circumstance where I had waived the process, and I think there are a couple, and I'll give you some examples. We haven't talked about them yet. In the business that is the bond bank's core mission, we have as long as 30-year tails to bond sales that we've made. So we have to keep records over a 30-year period, and required of the bondholders. Oftentimes, we might refund them in the middle, depending upon what's happening in the market and so place. But we use the same trustees that we have used from the beginning, because separating from a trustee would be incredibly complicated and expensive, and there's been no reason to do that. That's an example of an expense that when you look at it annually, is over the $10,000. But it is not something that we want to RFP, because we wouldn't be expecting to change it. If there were problems with our relationship with the trustee, we will deal with those. But financially, it would be much more costly to change that role because of all of the different, we're managing, in these 2 programs alone, we're managing 7 different entities that sell bonds. There are differences if it's clean water or drinking water or government facilities, and we adapt to each of those. But another example would be our financial advisor. We RFP that every 5 years. Okay, but all 3 entities that we're responsible for as quasis use the same financial advisor. So we divide the cost up based on the number of deals that each of those programs are doing and the par amounts and so forth, okay? I fear that I'm only gonna confuse you more as I talk about this. And if I'm doing that, I need you to tell me. I've had a total of 10 years immersed in this stuff, and I think sometimes I forget that everyone doesn't understand what I'm saying.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So I'm not saying I've got the experience you have, but I'm familiar from my municipal experience with the bond procedures and procurement, stuff like that. So you make complete logical sense to me because of the continuity of ongoing relationship and et cetera. Is that documented when you exceed $10,000? Are you noting that for the record? And I'm not, this question is not directed at you. It's any future entity that this is how we're guiding ourselves. So
we keep track of it because it's required for this oversight. That's why I'm saying I can give you some specific examples. The most recent ones, because you're only looking really at the last 2 fiscal years at this point. So that's what I'm intending to do, because we're tracking it precisely for that purpose. But it doesn't, if it would be better that those examples showed up in this format, this is something we will work on differently for the next interview with the committee, because I think filling these in advance, if I can get a copy of, I'll steal it, is what I'm gonna do. I'm just saying that right out there, okay? We can take this format and we can put in, you know, where we believe this is covered. And if the committee looks at that and says, well, it's kind of covered, but it's not really, doesn't sound tight enough, then let's talk about that, because our policies can change.
And that's the motivation of me trying to
Mhm.
trick this out.
Mhm.
Wasn't a gotcha or,
Oh, I wasn't taking it that way.
I know you did. I'm just
Not at
saying
all.
that on the mic, that,
Yeah,
that jumped out at me and, I wanted you on the mic to clarify that for us.
sure.
Appreciate it.
I think it would be helpful to, something like that, to say that, you know, in the process, if the executive director does determine that they want to waive it, the process to do that and the documentation looks something like this. This is what would happen, how that documentation work. Just, yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Representative Tool.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to further put a bow on that, I think what everyone is saying is basically have a policy written down that if that situation does happen, this is what happens. So that it's clearly understood what is happening and when and the circumstances around it, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions about the A and B? So A was establish a competitive procurement and standard procurement method. And then B was specify the conditions under which competitive procurement may be waived. So that kind of goes along with what we're just talking about. We're looking for something, if you could provide for us, what that might look like, what that process would look like. And certainly something you can bring back to us. We did talk about the procurements exceeding $10,000. You know, the justification for that. So I think that's something the committee is definitely interested in hearing more about, those two things.
Mhm.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think our purpose of this is to, you know, verify that their policy is in place, which it is. I think there's reasons when a competitive procurement may be waived, and it's listed here. And I guess I would just like to hear from the executive director that they show me somewhere where it says that they maintain their justification documents for at least 5 years, which I think she's already indicated they're kept longer, but I want to make sure that, you know, those A, B, and C are met, and then we can, you know, move to continue on and go to the next section.
If I may then, Representative Greenwood, yes. We do have conditions under which procurement has been waived as a matter of record, and we do maintain those for 7 years, 2 years longer than required, because we use that retention policy across the organization. And if the committee needed more details on that, I'm happy to bring it back or send it to you afterwards.
I think sharing that information would be helpful. That would be great.
Okay, so it would flesh out the examples that are listed in the policy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
And
want
I
to.
think probably less about examples, but more about what the procedure is, like what it looks like, that you do keep it for 7 years and under what circumstances, you know. I think it is good to hear examples, but we want to get more on what the policy looks like. Yeah. Yes, Senator Beebe Center.
I apologize. I need to leave for another meeting. I'm sorry. Oh.
Okay. Great. So we've asked for some more information for that section. Is everybody okay if we move on to 4 contributions? Yes, okay.
Certainly, if it may be helpful, I'm happy to similarly lead when we get to section 4,
Yeah,
the
please.
overview.
Mhm.
Would that be the Is the committee perfect if the committee's ready? So for contributions, so thinking about the question, are the policies adopted by the Maine Municipal Bond Bank consistent with the expectations of Section 4, contributions? The committee is looking to see if the written policies and procedures implemented by July 1, 2013, governing the use of the entity's resources for contributions, whether they, A, establish criteria to ensure that contributions are directly related to the entity's mission and activities. B, require that for identification and reporting purposes, contributions are budgeted and accounted for separately from other expenditures in the entity's records. C, establish requirements for maintaining documentation to support each contribution. And D, require that the governing body must approve the annual budget for contributions and be provided periodic reports on contributions made by the entity. If it may assist the committee, on the purple packet, page 5 includes the start of the text of the contributions, sponsorships, and membership procedures policy document provided by the organization.
All right, let's just take just a quick second to look at this. And says, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the second one, letter B, the identification and reporting purposes, contributions are budgeted and accounted for separately from other expenditures.
They are representative, but we call them donations or dues. If it's a dues situation, and we have a limited number of entities that we belong to, and I brought that list. And just so that you're aware, the Local Government Human Resource Association was a $35 annual fee. In 2024, we were a member of the Kennebec Valley Chamber of Commerce. We just continued that for 2025. The Maine Water Utilities Association, we are a member of. The Maine Governmental Finance Officers Association, we have a member. The Maine Municipal Association, we're an affiliate member. And the Maine Development Foundation. And the total paid in dues for FY 25 is about $1,500 from when you add all those together, okay? I'm thinking this is Bond Bank and HEFA, that's the total of the dues. The dues are a budget line in the budget that's adopted by the Bond Bank in every June. And the other piece of this, the contribution piece, the only contributions that have been made in the last 2 years for the Bond Bank or government facilities were contributions made as a result of the death of a board member or prior board member. And that just don't like when they're looking for contributions to a particular entity or whatever, the boards have made decision to do that, but only under those circumstances. Okay, and I look, the policy says the authority will make a donation to an organization if requested in a memorial of a serving board member, a prior board member, a staff person, or a former staff person. And is that detail enough? I guess what I'm kind of asking is, I didn't come prepared with
That's okay.
this much in that for each individual one, except for the dues piece, which I think is covered by this part of.
Yeah, no, I don't think we
statute.
need the specifics. And this is the first time I've gone through this process, so you'll have to excuse all
You're
a
doing
lot of
great.
us. But the way that I read, letter B, require that for identification and reporting purposes, contributions are budgeted and accounted for separately from other expenditures in the and maybe I'm overthinking it, but when I'm reading these rubrics,
Mhm.
I'm almost looking for that exact wording to be listed to say specifically, like when I read the sections about contributions
Yeah,
and like the internal procedures, for contributions, I think maybe it would be helpful if it just indicated clearly that the contributions are separate from the actual expenditures. It's a whole separate thing. I don't know. Would it be clear to have it that way or no?
well, we have a detailed line item budget that we put together. And both of these boards separately meet during the month of June in order to work and provide a budget that would kick in as of July 1. And what I'm saying, in those budgets, there is a line for dues. There is a line for contributions. They're separate, they're not together, but the policies deal with them similarly, the same wording. So I'm trying to figure out, beyond telling you that, if I gave you, I can give you a copy of the budget and I can highlight the ones that are specific, if that would be helpful.
I'm just, looking at it at a very high level, just at the basic level, like when we look at other bills, other things that we're looking at, and we put forward a bill, it's very specific, like what's expected. And if the expectations, it almost feels like, and I don't know why it's not like this again, that this, it's specific wording might even be helpful to have there, that for the identification and reporting purposes, contributions are budgeted and accounted for separately from other expenditures in the records. Just to clarify, so that somebody like me, who's never looked at your policy documents ever before this minute, you know what I mean? When I'm reading it and I'm looking to make sure that happens. I mean, you know that it happens because you've seen your budget and you've seen the process, but I've never seen it. So when I read the internal procedures, I don't see that that's listed there. So it might be helpful to just have that wording in some form there. I don't know. Am I overthinking this, Representative Greenwood? Okay, thank you. I don't know. Like I said, I've never looked at your policy documents, so I'm just kind of going by what, if it's required by statute that in your documentation, it says that, I don't know, might be helpful. Yes, Representative Rollins.
So I understand where you're coming from, because I was wondering the similar thing. The policies titled contributions, sponsorships, and memberships all lumped together. And the rubric is asking us to answer questions specifically about contributions. So the instinct is that we should maybe have a separate contribution verbiage somewhere in here about those questions. I think that's where you're coming from, right? So it makes sense to me. But I think it's in here too. So a little bit of a minor conundrum, and should we separate that out for us to decide?
So these, I guess, another thing that might be helpful to me.
Mike.
Sorry. Thank you, Representative Farren. These policies that you have, these here, have they been changed? When was the last time does it say?
I went through and updated a piece of.
It's on that,
a piece of the contribution, sponsorships, and memberships.
Oh, I see, okay.
And hang on just a second here. The procurement, I don't think has changed.
If it helps, I noted.
Oh, there you go, okay. And
I
on
see
the
now.
cover of the purple, it tells you where they were amended.
Voila,
Look
there
at
we
that.
go, okay. And when you make changes, yourself, if you make changes, do you have to bring that back to your board, or if it's not substantive, or how does that work?
Yes, eventually, when the board meets next.
June.
What changed was the examples.
Oh, okay.
Because those, for me, they made more sense and it would explain better what the exceptions were. Okay. So I'm not referring to what might have happened in the past. I'm referring to what we encountered, if you will. I'm thinking that the best use of the committee's time around this would be for me to take these and to ensure that I guess I'm kind of saying I should have to fill these out.
Yeah.
And bring
Yeah,
them in
yeah.
and then answer your questions and explain them. I think that would make this easier for everybody.
And I think it would also probably would be easier to have the committee have a chance to read through. So if we saw something that we had a question about, we could say as you're going through that. But like I don't want to overthink each thing. Yeah, because I'm
I
a good
understand.
overthinker. But I think what would be helpful to me is now that I have all this information, maybe we could put this off for a week or whatever would be helpful to you.
Mhm.
And come back after we've had a chance to read through all of it and you've had a chance to see what questions we're going to ask you. Would that be okay with you if we did that?
Absolutely.
Kristen?
Just for a matter of
March
procedure,
1st.
there is a statutory requirement for the committee to submit its letter and review to the Government
Yeah.
Oversight Committee by March 1st. The committee does have 1 week additionally between now and that deadline. And certainly can talk about the letter and ways that the committee could perhaps review that if there isn't a meeting between that and the March 1st deadline.
Yeah, if we came back on the 25th and met again and had a question, you were prepared with these specific questions and maybe we could go over that and
Absolutely. I know, I'm trying to remember. I think we tried to provide the information for the clerk. And I didn't want to uninform you folks. So
no,
I
I don't
think the
think you did at
additional
all.
time, I can go right through the rubric.
Yeah.
And I can point to the page number and the language. And if that makes it easier for members of the board to say, well, okay, I get it when you explain it,
That'd
but
be
I'd
okay.
really feel better if it was tighter, then
Yeah.
we'll write it tighter. Okay, it's not that.
No, I think that would be good. That way we're not digging for information, making informed choices. That would be wonderful if you would be willing to do that.
Of course.
Thank you.
One question before she.
Senator Martin.
How much money does the bond bank handle annually? Approximately.
Yep.
I'm sure it changes from year to year.
We do this, we calculate that from the May 1st to April 30. Okay.
but- Yeah,
And last year was just shy of $7.5 billion. Billion. Well, because we're tracking all of those loans. I mean, we've got over 500 borrowers just in the Gen Res program, which is mostly municipalities, their school systems, water districts, sewer districts, and so forth. And those all have, I mean, if it's a fire truck, it's probably 10 years. If it's a police vehicle, it's probably a 5-year term, but the terms go out to 30 years. So what I've asked back in in the middle of 2020 is I asked the accounting team to track. It's not a number that shows up in our audits, but it is a sum total because when we're collecting payments from the borrowers and then making payments to the bondholders, we're handling that money twice. And we have to have division of labor. We can't, the same people taking in the money can't be the ones giving out the money and so on and so forth, that structure our entire accounting department. And I said, I want to know what that dollar figure is. The first time we did it, we were over $8 billion. And well, we were able to bring it down because we were able to systematize some of the electronic connection we have with the banks so that we can download stuff and we're not having to do it manually. And but we don't count the stuff that the computer does for us. We count the stuff that a human has to do. So it's $7.5 billion most recently, and they'll do that figure and give it to me again by the end of May this year. It's a lot of money, a lot of money.
I had no idea, so that's why I asked.
Well, I'm also thinking that I'm a real believer in tactile learning. And at some point, I think we should invite the committee over to for breakfast or something before, everything gets, and maybe we can't do it this year, but I should have thought of it for doing it next year. As a way of, it becomes real when you can see the people that are doing the work and and just stop by on your, take one more exit up the highway and stop in and we'll make coffee and biscuits and you'll be able to meet the people that do all the work that I get to come here and brag about. Okay, so, but Representative, I'm more than willing to do what you just
Yeah.
described.
I think
okay?
that would be good. I think it's very fascinating and I just, if there's going to be a letter that's going to have my name on it that says that, we went through all these policies and we don't have any questions, I just, want to make sure we're doing a thorough job and stuff. And I think it would be great. We'd love to come over. We'd love field trips. We did one last session. So end of session field trip. We'll make a plan, but I think it would be helpful and it would also be good because there is so much information for us to have a chance to look it over so that we're not, we're fully engaged when we're ready to do that. That would be great. I'm sorry, Representative Rollins? Oh, Representative Tulip?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I agree also. I've been through these before and they're always complicated and deep in the weeds. But as we're gonna do that though, I'm looking at the bottom of page 5, third paragraph from the bottom. Under donations and contributions, it reads, all donations and contributions must be reviewed and approved by the executive director. Has there been any thought of changing that to the board of directors or the board of trustees? And that may be a question to answer next week when you come back, but that was on my mind as we were going through it and I didn't want to lose it. So thank you.
I'm happy to answer the question. It has not been discussed, Representative Toole, mostly because the only time we see this happening is relative to a death, and oftentimes the timing of that, the memorial service or whatever, the board is aware of the policy, so they know that this happens and they're informed after the fact. But it can be difficult because of that. We're not making, the others are dues, and that's a decision that the affected individual on staff would make a case, during the budget process. This is something that meets the criteria. If you read the piece that, best practices, I can't remember, interpreting national policies, that can be a real issue when it comes to the accounting, GASB in particular, and then tracking policies that other programs may have, because sometimes we're not the smartest people in the room, but we're listening to the ones that are, and we like to copy them when that's the case. So I think we can do a better job of assuring the committee that when you sign off on it, it's good. So let me have another opportunity to do that.
No, I think that would be great and it's a good learning opportunity for us, but I want to make sure that, the questions that we're supposed to be answering, you have the opportunity to direct us the right way and stuff. So, and we'll be prepared to come back next week. And so that that gives us time by the end of the week to have a letter sent off. Does anybody, yes, Representative Rollins?
Very quickly, thank you, Madam. Would you anticipate that it's a married response between the bond bank and the facilities authority?
We have the same policies.
Right.
And so that's why both entities are named on the cover sheets and higher ed, health and higher ed.
So for instance, the policy that he just read, which applies to bereavement expenditures,
Or contributions, yeah.
Would probably be the very same thing that happens with the facilities. We're not contributing to anything other than that.
That is correct, except for dues, which we call and define differently. That might be seen as a contribution, but that's a membership piece.
And nobody's asking us about dues,
Okay,
us. Says contributions.
She's telling us that they're also called dues.
I know. I'm saying, but they're not asking, never mind.
it's okay. I think I can prepare this better. That will make it easier, and particularly if I can take a set of the handouts.
Of course.
Because color and number will help us, okay, look at them. And like I said, if there's an interest on the part of committee members for more precision or for a more specific kind of record keeping, Let me, I'll find out and we'll do that. Okay.
No, that would be really helpful and we appreciate your patience as we
Sure.
go through that. Thank you very much. Yes, Representative Copeland.
Just a comment, I wanted to thank our analysts for coming up with this rubric. And I think once you guys get this together, it's going to be a fabulous document. Save time for each year that
Good
we come
job.
back. Thank you for that.
Making changes and streamlining things. Thank you so much. Was there anything else that you wanted to say?
Just a simple request.
Yes.
I have a commitment in the morning on Wednesday of next week, but I should be free by 11:30 and throughout the afternoon. So if that could work into the committee schedule, that would be most helpful.
Yes, absolutely. We can do that. No
Thank
problem.
you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today and we'll plan to see you after 11:30 next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will be back.
All right. Yes, Kristen.
If I may, one other item, only when the committee feels that it is resolved of this matter or is completed. I do have one language review item that the committee already saw for initial language review that just changed the date. If I would be able to distribute that, that would allow us to then move forward with possibly reporting the bill out.
Do I have everything now?
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We have a bill for a language review. Go ahead, Kristen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yep, so there's just one item for language review. It is the pink color, which means that it has come from the revisor's office. Moving from the back to the front of the packet, this is LD 2158, which was an act to address vacancies on the Knox County Budget Committee. The very back sheet shows the voting sheet. This was unanimous of those registering a vote. You can see the bill as printed. You will then see the second kind of item in the packet was the committee amendment that went through initial language review. It was just changing the date. The date requested was for the committee, it would be on, if you're looking at the bill as printed or in any shape or form, the amendment language that was provided, it was just in line 13 in subsection 7 regarding the termination of authority. The authority granted in the act expired previously on April 1, 2029, and the committee's amendment was to change that to December 31st, 2028. The committee had reviewed that at initial language review. It has come back from the advisor's office with that, and you will see the summary has been updated to reflect what the amendment is to the bill, which is changing the date from April 1, 2029 and inserting in its place the date December 31st, 2028.
Fantastic. Any questions about this date change or this bill? Nope. Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
That concludes our business for today. We'll see you all next Wednesday. And leave